There we go. Okay. All right. So we're now live on Facebook and we're live on Zoom. So we're going to kick this off. Welcome everybody to our weekly meeting that we're having. Tonight's going to be a great meeting. First, we're going to have A&A come on and talk about themselves. They're one of our vendors.
Oh, good. It's live on Facebook. You should probably.
That was Mom again.
Sorry, technical difficulty. I was trying to get on so that I can answer people's questions and ask them at the same time. I don't know why it's doing this to me this week.
Because Keith's on.
You told me. Just me.
All right. So again, we were going to have A&A just come on and talk about themselves real quick. They're one of our vendors for our meeting. So if somebody from A&A wants to.
Hi everybody, Ashley here with A&A. Just want to let everybody know we are a demolition and debris removal company. We know with everything that's going on right now, and there's Anthony.
They won't let me join, so.
Bring it over.
So we do demolition and cleanouts. So if you have any unwanted furniture in your backyards right now and you got sheds you need cleaned out, garages, attics, basements, you guys are planning on redoing your kitchens and bathrooms or your whole house, you could give us a call. We're still working even with the COVID going on. We are wearing our masks and gloves and everything, so you guys are safe and protected, so you don't have to feel scared about having us around, because we take care of everything for you. You don't have to worry about anything going on. And like I said, we are still working right now, so we're booking up quick. We're getting calls every day. We're moving on, so if you want to hop on that schedule for anything you need, give us a call.
Anything else?
No.
No.
That's it. No, it's just we're still working. We're going to keep working. Doesn't matter what's going on.
Yeah, just a little bit difficult with towns not being open. But.
Well, also with the protests going on, if we go up north, we have to be a lot more precautious of what's going on around us.
Yeah.
So we're ready though. You know?
You ready? Got a big truck.
Yeah,
just run them over.
Ashley, somebody wanted you to put your contact info in there.
Yep, I'm working on it.
Okay. Yeah, so we are, in case anybody doesn't know, or if it's your first time at our meeting, we're Central New Jersey Real Estate Investment Group, CNJ REIG. You know, we have monthly meetings the last Wednesday of every month, but now with this COVID, we've been having meetings different weeks. We still have our meeting last Wednesday of every month, but it's a webinar. And now we have the ability to have more people come on and provide information about different topics and different things going on in the world outside of our area. Tonight's going to be a great meeting. We have the superstar Keith Meals with us tonight. We're going to talk about how to manage your business remotely. Like, I wouldn't say it's autopilot necessarily, but it's almost like autopilot. It's just different than like lead generation or some other types of functions that people do out there if they're wholesaling or other things that they're doing where they just have a tool running. So, you know, we met Keith 8 years ago. Yeah, it was about 8 years ago that we met Keith.
Is that old?
Yeah, it's that long.
A long time ago.
They was little.
Yeah, they were tiny. You didn't meet them until a couple of years back. You know,
exactly. They came along later on. Exactly.
Yeah, but when we first met, we were just getting started and new into, you know, going to different meetings and the real estate world outside of what we did. You know, so that's how we kind of met. You know, I don't want to go into too much because I'll let you talk about yourself, but, you know.
You can go ahead and throw whenever you want. I got enough stories, Scott. You know I can always add to it.
You know, we met Keith through a coach, Paul Fink, the Maverick Millionaire, if anybody has met him at our meetings or if you've seen him online. Keith works with
Go
Paul.
shut that phone off.
And, you know, that's how we were introduced to Keith through Paul, which was, we got introduced through a real estate. I wouldn't call him a guru, but, you know, somebody that teaches real estate and knows the financial industry very well, invited us to a weekend event, and that's where we met Paul.
You're right. That has been like forever ago, hasn't it? I forgot that you guys came to that event first.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
You weren't there, but Paul wasn't even there talking about his coaching. He was doing the MLM. That's what he
Right.
was doing at the time, you know.
Gotcha.
And,
Yeah. I wasn't at the initial at the preview piece or the piece where you met him at. So, but I was forgetting you guys came to that. It was a multi-speaker event, if I remember right.
yeah,
So
Yeah.
where we actually first, where I first met you.
yeah, there was a lot of gurus there.
Robert
A lot.
Sheeman too. He was the other one.
Yeah, Robert Sheeman's the
Yes,
one.
Robert was
that,
there.
we
I
met
like him because he was the first time I met him was trading. He's my
Oh.
trader.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, financial. Yeah, he's a financial advisor on MSNBC. That's how I was like, oh,
Oh,
hi.
gotcha.
He's actually going to be on a future webinar. We just
Yeah.
haven't set a date
Awesome.
yet because he was stuck in
Israel?
South America somewhere.
No,
Oh, is it?
No, not Cuba. Nicaragua, something like that. Somewhere down there. Colombia.
Colombia.
Oh, gotcha.
Knew it had
Yeah.
a C.
He spends a lot of time in South America down there in third world
Right.
countries doing things.
Yeah, he
But,
spends a lot of time traveling.
yeah.
So
But
do
we-
you.
Yeah.
Not as
So-
much right now.
How do we do that,
Yeah.
right?
So, that's one of the reasons why we asked Keith to come on was because we know from background with him and working with him what he does, and felt that it was a great idea to bring him on. And people have questions about doing things when it comes to remote, like, hey, I want to flip houses in another state. How do I do it? Hey, I want to run a business and launch it in another state. How do I do it? I'm here.
Right.
So that's why we wanted to have Keith on, talk about that and his other, how would you word it? We'll get into it later.
All right. You
That's
left
all.
everybody
Yeah.
hanging, and
Yeah.
including me. I have no idea what you're going to talk about.
No, it's how you coach people and teach people what they need to do to strive their business forward outside of how they run a business remotely. It's two
Got it.
different components, right?
Accountability,
But accountability,
coach.
yes.
Yes. So very important. No question about it for everybody.
He's a very awesome person, very awesome coach, very awesome businessman.
Yes.
So
Thank you.
Anyway, I'm done talking from my end. Let's introduce. This is the miraculous Keith Meals, famous international superstar.
Yes.
I like that. I'm going to have to start using that.
Yeah,
I'm good with that.
international superstar Keith Meals, and I'll let you talk about yourself a bit, and then we'll get into what
Sounds
we're
good.
just briefing it on.
And it's always amazing whenever you get on these and we start talking and you start looking back and it's like, it's been that long.
Yeah.
You just don't think about it. It's, I was looking at myself in the mirror and I'm the same, 25-year-old guy that I've been staring at for the last, I'm not going to fill in the blank years, as far as that part goes. Yeah. And it's like, I don't see myself any different, yet the changes are dramatic and there's no question about it. And then changes in all of you, Ashley. So Anthony, Scott, Tab. So from working with you, the changes are dramatic from whenever we first started working together. There's no question about it. And that's awesome. So that's the thing that I always love. And like Scott was talking about earlier as a coach. So that's the thing that I love to see. So as people being able to step into their power and really be able to move things forward, that to me is fun. And that's my biggest passion. So and it's one of the reasons why whenever Scott and Tad offered for me to hop on here, I'm like, oh, of course. I mean, this is definitely that's what I do anyways. So all the time as far as coaching and sharing information goes. So whenever the opportunity, it's like, yeah, let's get it done. As far as for me, just to give you a little history on me. So I started out my journey. So to get where I am. So what's it been now? Holy cow. It's probably been 15 years ago now. So I didn't realize it's been that long. So again, it's that reflection piece. So it was probably about 15 years ago I got started on this journey. And for me, I was working as a construction manager. So for a custom home builder. And the one thing that every time I talk to all of my homeowners, when you're building custom homes, if you've never built one before, your build time's a little bit longer. So which means that I was typically building the house for someone between 9 to 15 months, depending on the size of the project. So you get to know your homeowners a bit, which was the fun part for me. And I talked to all of them and I found out, hey, what do you do for a living? How are you going ahead and creating this kind of a lifestyle? Because I wanted to know. Yeah. And, it's great to be able to build the house, but I want to be able to live in that same house is what it boiled down to. And whenever I would talk to them, the one thing that everybody had in common, so they all had different types of jobs. Some owned businesses, some were Fortune 500 CEOs. But the one thing that everybody had in common was real estate. They all owned real estate or did real estate in some form or manner. And that was the piece that went ahead and I was like, all right, well, if they're all doing this, I need to find out a little bit more about it. So much like I'm sure a lot of you have done that are on this meeting right now, this Zoom webinar tonight. So I've started looking into it. So, and the thing that opened my eyes first was I went ahead and got a book. So, I need to learn a little bit more about this. So I got Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So Robert Kiyosaki. So it was the first book that I went ahead and pulled in. So I pulled that book in and I was like, you know what, and it was like mind blown. I'm like, there's no way, I've got to do something. So around this real estate thing. And amazingly enough, we always talk about what you put out so you get back. So I put out in the universe, I'd really love to be able to go and learn more about real estate education and learn more about real estate investing so that I can do this. And a couple weeks later, surprisingly, these tickets show up in the mail. So, hey, you bought the book. So why don't you come out and check out the event? So I know, shocking model. We've never heard of that one before. None of you have ever experienced anything like that. I got those tickets, went to that event, at that time, it was my brother-in-law with us. And we went to the event. And whenever we were there, I'm just like firing off. It's like I was ready to go. I'm like, all right, we need to do whatever this is. It was a 90-minute pitch. So they sold us into a 2-day event. So it was what it was. So we bought tickets for a 2-day event and went to that. And that was the beginning of my journey. So as far as real estate investing goes. And that to me, so having that epiphany, that the eyes opening up, so that was the thing that did it for me. And I get excited when I get to talk to other people about what they did and what got them going. So, because it's always their own path and their own story. And that's one of the reasons why I share the information, because someone shared information with me, and that's what got me started on my path. So from there, I got into real estate investing, and I would love to say that I got started in real estate investing and killed it on all of my first deals. So it was banking 5-figure checks, 6-figure checks. Well, unfortunately, the first 2 that I banked, were negatives. I wrote checks to get out of the deals because I started investing. One of my first deals that I actually got, so once I got out of my own way, were in 2007 going into 2008. I think y'all probably know what was going on then.
Yeah.
So we had a little bit of a mortgage meltdown. So houses that were supposed to be 6-week fix and flips, because there wasn't much going on, and I was in construction. I got all these contacts. This is going to be easy. I can nail this. So both me and my business partner. So we're both in construction. We got involved in it, and those 6 weeks turned into 6 months. The market was crashing the entire time. So what we had figured our ARV to be, so it was nowhere close by the time we got to the end of that. And as typical with first deals, so we spent more money than what we were planning on in the beginning. So that made it even worse. So whenever we finally sold the houses, both my partner and I wrote checks for $20,000 each. So to get out of the houses. I advise everybody on this call, so listen to Scott and Tabitha and never, ever, ever follow that path. So it's not a good path.
No. You're supposed to make profits, but the whole thing is you fail forward and learn from it and grow.
And that's exactly it. So, and that's the biggest thing that I took away from that. So is that I learned I needed better systems. I needed better people to show me what I was doing. So, and that's what ended up happening is I ended up finding those people in those places. Paul, which Scott had mentioned earlier. So it was one of those people that I found. So he's been one of the most instrumental coaches that I've ever had. So for sure on that side of things. So, and whenever I got involved with him, so he was able to help me start figuring out the things that were causing me challenges in my life, which is typically in most people's lives. So at least that I coach. So it's typically a mindset thing. So it's getting your mind wrapped around new ideas and new ways of doing business and new ways of approaching challenges whenever they pop up so that you continue moving through them. And that's really the biggest thing. So working with him has been one of those pieces, multiple other coaches and trainers, but he's been the biggest influence on that for sure. So if Scott has them on or has Paul on at some point, or you get a chance to see him in person, make sure you take advantage of that. You're going to love that. So I know that for sure. I did. It made a huge difference in my life.
Yeah.
From there, so the biggest thing and it's when I started working with him, one of the things and one of the reasons I think why Scott and Tab have me on here, so is because of the fact that they're so used to seeing me in different locations. Like this is my house behind me. You can, I know the colors are a bit bright. I live in Orlando, Florida. So start putting it together. Red, shorts, yellow. So Mickey's gloves. I'm sorry, Mickey's shoes. Sorry. The gloves are white and I got white for all the outlets and everything around the house. So I love Disney, and that's the reason why this office is this way. Plus, it creates energy for me. Whatever you know that you can get energy from in your life, so bring more of that in. And this is one of those things for me, and that's why my office is done up this way. But where I was going with that piece is I travel a lot, and that's where Scott and Tab got to see that a lot. So years ago, whenever they started with us, is they would see us in all kinds of different cities. So, I mean, Orlando was the easy one for me since I'm right here. Whenever we had events here. But you figure Vegas, Jersey, New York, Dallas, California, in multiple cities in California. So Virginia, so literally all over the United
Dominican.
States, and we've been to South Africa. So, and we've been to Europe. So, and we've been to Mexico, Jamaica, Italy. So over in Europe. So whenever we went over there. So all of these places we go, I've learned quickly for me to actually be successful, I had to be able to run my business while I was gone.
Mhm.
And that for me was the key, because whenever I first started with, and I will say this, when you work with mentors, work with them to the point where you're able to be with them. All right. Because whenever you're able to do that, whenever you're able to shadow them and be in the same space that they're in, the key is what they give you as far as what they tell you that you can be doing or how you can go ahead and do something is important. Watch what they do. Because when you watch what they do, you get to see how they live their life and how they run their life, and you can learn so much more from that. So that's one of the pieces that I watched whenever I was at events with Paul, because we used to go ahead and support other speakers in the back of their rooms, which means we were the sales team and the coaching team in the back of the room. Well, there's certain times when we're busy and certain times when we weren't. And whenever I first started doing it, I'd get out there and it's like I paused my business whenever I first started doing this for the 4 or 5 days that were gone every time. And I figured out that part wasn't going to work out really well, really fast. So that had to stop. And I started watching what Paul did and started implementing those pieces. And I noticed that, hey, whenever he was there, he was working on his computer. So, and I, when we'd be talking later, I'm like, so what are you doing? So whenever we're sitting here, and he's like, well, I can take care of this and I can take care of this. And I have someone that's taking care of this. And I'm running all of those different pieces. So I'm like, all right, I got to go ahead and put this in my business. And that's literally what I did. So as I took those pieces, so I started figuring that out of how can I go ahead and implement this. So while I'm gone, my business still runs exactly like if I was there, or as close as it can be without me being there. That was what that looked at. And that took time. So, and systems and processes and lots of tools. So, and I don't know how you want me to go with this, Scott. So you tell me how you want me to go. I can talk for the next 2 hours without a challenge.
Yeah, what you were saying though, you remember that saying as a kid? I don't know if you ever got that saying, do as I do, not as I say. Yeah.
Exactly.
So a part of it is, you had to figure out how can you run your business while you're on the road.
Right.
You can't pause it for 5 days or a week. You need it to function. And
exactly.
Like a lot of people that might be on the call are investors where we're either doing rehabs or wholesaling maybe, or maybe a landlord. You're a contractor, right?
Right.
You're renovating homes or building homes. So
All
yours is a little bit more difficult than say ours would be, as I'm looking for leads or maybe doing a rehab, whereas you're building a home. But something like that.
And remember, and I agree with you on that side, Scott. And there's a lot of similarities between that investor side and the contractor side. Yet I still have to find leads. I still have to communicate with leads. I still have sales processes to move people forward to actually have the jobs. So whenever you're looking at those pieces, it's exactly the same piece. It's how do I effectively function for my business? How does all that work whenever I'm not there to run it?
Exactly.
And
that's what we're asking.
How do you trust the people? Yeah. How do you trust the people and find them?
Right. How do you find the people to run your business while you're not there?
Oh, there's so many questions.
Or do the tasks that they're maybe not running your business, but they're doing tasks on a daily basis for you that you can't do. Like how do you determine the right person to fit that role?
Well, whenever I'm looking at the right person, and most of my people who have worked for me, and now my project manager is someone who used to be one of my subcontractors. Whenever I looked at it, I look at the guys that are coming in and the contractors that are coming in and who seems responsible and who seems to care more about my project than what the average contractor does. Like they're not just there to do the job. They're interested in seeing the quality that's going on. They're the ones keeping it clean. They're the ones letting me know, hey, you know what, so-and-so, left this way. I took care of it for you. No big deal. But I want to make sure that the house looks good. So especially on a renovation side and when you have homeowners living in it, they value the quality of your job is always based on the cleanliness of your job and how well they think it's taken care of when you're doing renovations and remodeling. So crazy thing. But it's just the way they go ahead and evaluate things. So that's they start looking at that and they're the ones letting me know, or someone will stop by the job and they'll be the one calling me going, hey, so-and-so's here and they had some questions. So do you want to go ahead and talk to them now or not? So they're reaching out. And that's one of the things that I looked for. So to find those people who would take care of my job whenever I was gone. Okay. And when they're starting to do those types of things, So that's whenever I know, all right, this is someone that is more interested in and is very interested in making my project successful, which means that they're the right person to be able to trust whenever I'm out of town to be able to take care of things. Now, part of the key with this all on that end, planning is huge. So, and that's one of the pieces that I don't necessarily see from the real estate investors that I coach. So they don't necessarily have that plan put in place. And that's one of the reasons why I'm successful is because of the fact that I literally have my schedule mapped out for at least 2 weeks from now. So for all of my projects that I have going on, which means that I know who's supposed to be in the house today. So I know who's supposed to be in the house tomorrow. And if it bumps, I let everybody know. So to be able to go ahead and do that. And that communication is your key if you're going to run a successful remote project. You've got to have that relationship. They have to know that they're not making dry runs to your house. So, and for anyone who doesn't know what a dry run is, that means they come out, they can't do their work, and they have to come back later.
Right.
So again, they don't like, they lose money. So that's what it is. Either getting there and getting back. So is the biggest thing for later on. So for me, communicating effectively and having all of my information for them. So it means they want to show up to my jobs. And that's the question to ask yourself. Do your contractors want to show up to your jobs? If they don't want to be on your job, why not? All right. And it's the easy thing to say is, well, it's them and they just don't care. The one thing I know Scott and Tab have learned this working with us and Ashley. So is that you always have to look internally first. What can I change that can make that situation different than what it is right now? And that's the piece that I always go back to all the time. We do what we call after action reviews on everything that we do. And what that means is we go back and look, especially if something had a challenge, why did it have the challenge? How can we make it different and better next time so that we don't have the same challenge again? And by doing that process, my contractors see that. So like if there was a challenge with my contractor and he showed up and he couldn't do whatever he needed to do in the beginning, they'd be like, all right, so what did you need that wasn't ready for you? So I'm willing to learn exactly what you need to be able to do that. Now I had more experience, so being a GC, and at the same time, those are the good kinds of questions to ask because those are the things that a lot of times as real estate investors starting, you don't realize the sequence of how things roll. And if you don't realize the sequence of the workflow, so you're bringing in people that you think, hey, I can get the painter in here today. Well, all right, that he can come in and paint some stuff, yet not everything's there for him. So now he's the frustrated painter on your job site. And you never want frustrated contractors. Those are, unfortunately, the frustrated contractors are never the ones that are going to do extra, take care of your jobs whenever they're gone. And one of the, like for me, the way I figured out some of the people who are going to be good at watching my jobs whenever I was gone is I ask all of my contractors on a daily basis to send me pictures of what happened that day on the job for what they were doing. So the ones that were following through and doing those things, those are my easy ones. So where I go ahead and look at it, I'm like, all right, these guys are following through, which means they can communicate with me remotely. So that's a good person for me to go ahead and ask that of them. And that's literally what I would do. My electrician was one of them. My tile guy, so is another one who communicates with me that way. And they're there for longer periods of time, so they get to see certain things. So is what they end up getting to see. So those are the things that, those are some of the key aspects to find the right people to watch your job whenever you're not there.
Now, what about, I just want to find out do you have a specific like app or something that you would suggest or prefer to use, or do you just give them your cell phone number?
Well, and there's different ways. There's different ways of the communication piece. When we're talking pictures and things like that, or video, because I'll get questions all the time remotely. Hey, hey, I need what do you want to do in this situation? Well, when they go ahead and ask me that, I mean, send me a picture, which is just easy enough. Text me the picture. So, or if they've got iPhones, FaceTime me, Zoom, so we can hop on a quick Zoom call because I've got a Zoom account. I'm like, all right, I'll go ahead and send you a link. Just click on this, and then you can show me around whatever you've got going on there, and I can give you an answer. So those pieces in today's world with technology make things so much easier.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. So, and that's the one thing that I do all the time. So is that piece. Now I have some other pieces of ways I share information. So, and like for me, for everything that I do in my job, I have what I call a color sheet, which is literally all of my specs for the job and all the choices that the homeowner made. So, which is something that you should have for all of your contractors. So whenever they're going in and doing your remodels. And if you've got that piece, so I share that through a Google Doc so they can see everything there. It's updated in real time so they're able to stay on top of it. And with that piece, so you're able to go ahead and share information back and forth. That's the key, is being able to share it back and forth in real time and get them quick answers so that they can keep on moving. And that's one of the things that that I do all the time. So with that, now I've got a whole bunch of other technology pieces, which I'll talk about whenever we get to them. So, but there's two other key pieces that I use for organization. One is mind maps. And I don't know whether anybody in here knows what a mind map is or not. So, but if you don't know what it is, so I organize
We lost our camera.
Yeah,
As I say, I noticed you disappeared. So I'm like,
Yeah,
we're here, but our camera just, Zoom's not seeing our camera all of a sudden, so.
it's just in the middle of nowhere.
we just figured you guys were making out or something.
Yeah.
So mind mapping is one of the biggest things I use for project organization. So, and if you haven't ever looked at it, it's kind of like whenever I used to be in school, and I'm dating myself now, they used to teach us outlining. So to go ahead, before you did any paper, you prepared an outline of what this was going to look like. And then from the outline, you wrote the paper. So, well, instead of going ahead and doing that, so I use mind maps. So it was one of the things that I teach everybody, all the students I have. It's one of the things I recommend highly to use. It's more of a free flow way, so of getting that information out. Because the challenge with outlining is you've got to go ahead and you put down the information and you're trying to organize it at the same time, which means your mind's trying to be creative and analytical, which means it's competing is what it's doing. So you're less effective at getting things done. So for me, what I do, the mind maps, literally all you do is you just brain dump everything in your head onto this mind map, and then you go back and click and drag everything around to organize it. And I literally, every aspect of a project, I dump into the mind map. So then I go ahead and organize it by trade is what I do. So whenever you organize that by trade, then literally, like for the electrician, he has everything he needs to do in the project. I screenshot that piece, and that's his scope of work that I send to him to get pricing. And I can do that from anywhere, because literally I do that. I've got my prints digital for my blueprints. And I send all that stuff out in pictures that I've taken before whenever I went and walked the job, and send that out to them to be able to go ahead and get their pricing back to me, so that everything's effective and efficient. I don't have to be there. I don't have to meet them. So here's what it is. If they want to meet me to see the project, so I give them a day. So there's one day that I pick for everybody in between these hours. So, and I usually run 8 to 11. So, and then I'll give the guys that want to come in the afternoon, which is a couple of my guys, like my concrete guy likes to come in the afternoon. So between 1 and 2 usually. So for the afternoon time frame is whenever it's a tighter time frame. So that everybody's got to be there that day that needs to see the project.
Cool. So,
It just clicked on me that, you know what, the A&A debris removal can really use that. So you're going to have to repeat what you said to them guys. That's, using the pictures and the way they're doing all that stuff. I think that would, come quite handy for,
Oh, and it's great for those types of things to be able to send that information out. And actually, depending for whenever they're doing it, it's a great way to let your trades know the jobs are ready. So because you're sending the picture of what came in that day, if the framer's there and he finished framing, so I can have my HVAC guy in the next day. So they send me the picture, everything's done that I was looking to have done. It's like, they're like, is it ready? And I just send pictures. I'm like, yep, you're ready to go. Here's all your ceiling details are in. You can go in and do everything you need to do. So let's make it happen. See you tomorrow.
Yeah.
that's good.
We're going to see if we could get us on there. But we have a question
Couple
from,
questions.
yeah.
Question
Perfect.
from Nancy was, how do you keep contractors motivated and engaged?
And I get what you're talking about with that one, Nancy. So
Yeah.
Contractors can be a funny lot, to say the least, as far as keeping them engaged. And this is a key, whether it's a contractor or anyone else, but what I do, so on my side, and this, all of you can do this as real estate investors too, so is you go ahead and you paint what the big vision is. So what are you looking to actually create with your business? So, and how do they play a part in that? So when you paint a big vision that they get excited about, so that they want to be a part of, that they know they've got continuous work coming from you. So that's how you can go ahead and keep them motivated. Okay. Because they see, hey, there's a lot more here than just a one-off job that I'm never going to see them again. And that's one of the big ways. It's one of the reasons why, like I have 3 different plumbers that I use. So, and they all get jealous whenever they see social media posts about the other person going ahead and doing work in my house. And there's reasons why for each one of them, that each one of them has a strength in a certain area. So yet at the same time, I use that as motivation that you still need to perform at the level that I set. And I give them with my scope of work, which means this is what you're supposed to do in the job. They also get that this is what our company expects you to perform at, which means that, you know, you're there on time. So you sweep the house, broom sweep the house every day before you leave. So you make sure all the windows and doors are locked. So shut and locked. Unfortunately, you have to say that sometimes. So but there's a whole list of things that they have to do whenever they're on my job sites, which are all pieces that play well to my homeowners, that they see that and it's important to
There
them.
we go. We're back.
Hey, you're back.
We're done.
So doing those types of things like that is
Adult only.
the biggest thing for anybody. They're looking to be led to what's
Yeah.
the big thing for them. So create the big vision and show them how they play into the big vision. So my contractors know right now. So my company has been expanding for the last 6 years in a row. It's been doubling every year at least. So the last 2 years we've done more than double. So every year. So as we're going ahead and doing that, I have to get more and more contractors in. Yet that also, I play this out for my contractors. I'm expanding. So who are you finding to bring into your company so that you can expand with me so that you're able to handle all the work that I'm bringing you? And when you start talking to them about that, most of the contractors have a certain degree of money motivation. That's why they're being a contractor in the first place.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So show them how they can be a part of that and how you're going to increase their bottom line is one of the big pieces that goes with that.
Yeah, because like one of the things we tell our contractors, same thing. It's like, look, I'm looking for somebody. One, I don't have to babysit. Two, is on the same page we are with the project. You
Mhm.
know, three, you know, we want quality work and we take pride in what we do.
Right.
So you have to be there.
Mhm.
The one issue is the cleaning up, but most of the time we're not in the same realm as you.
Right.
There's no homeowners there. Although we did start our own contracting business, Jay being with the homeowners.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of our strategies now.
Right.
And
So
right
when
now,
they're there, it's
barter
different.
system works.
And the barter system is working really well.
Good.
But I think that is key. One of the things you were saying there with motivating them, you know,
Yeah.
showing them that, you know, I'm not one and done with you. I want, you know, I'm growing. I'm going to bring you along and we're going to grow together so long as you want to be a part of that. But you have to do it the way
it's
I want it
getting,
done.
and what you said was key on that, Scott. It's getting them engaged in that. And the fact that they want to be a part of it means getting them to say that, you know what, that'd be cool. I want to be a part of that. And that's the key. You putting it out there. If they don't say something back, they don't agree to it. They don't say, that's what I want. They haven't really taken it in. So whenever they say, you know what, I would love to be a part of this, it takes it into a different level. And you think that that's not a big deal. So in the 15 years of sales that I've been doing with Paul, since I do sales too, when you get someone else to say it, it actually sinks. So it actually goes to their heart, as opposed to if you go ahead and you don't, like, you just tell them. So someone that's being told something, it just goes in and a lot of times out. Without that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But now finding, oh yeah, you have
yeah,
another
we have another
here?
question, which was similar to that.
Okay.
This is from Harry. I live in New Jersey, but have rentals in Volusia City and need a new PM. How would you approach a brand new restart relationship search?
Good question.
I mean, in the first part is what I'd already talked a little bit about. The first place I look is for people that I've already worked with. So that's my project manager now. I was at the point where I was ready to hire a new project manager. So, and he actually got back in contact with me, moved back into town. And he used to be he was a handyman type of guy, but he used to be able to do a lot of things really well for me. So he handled a lot of my smaller projects as it was anyways, all by himself. And as whenever I went and I started looking around, I started asking my guys, you know, the guys that work for me, who do you know that would be good at this? So, and there are a couple of them I approached directly as, are you ready to do this? Because they've expressed that interest before with me. So, but that's the first place that I would say to go ahead and look for that, because if you already know them and you've got a relationship, typically you know how they're going to work. So, and they'll typically work harder for you as long as your vision and their vision match up. So for where you want the company to go. And that for me with Lance was huge. So because I was able to paint a vision for him, he didn't come in just looking to be a project manager. He wants to be in operations. So vice president of operations essentially. And where he worked before, he was actually making about twice what he's making for me right now. I live in Florida. We pay in sunshine dollars. So as far as you get nice weather outside. So that's what you get. and Lance is from Wisconsin. So he
Oh,
understands
okay.
the
Yeah,
sunshine
yeah. So that's a big difference there.
Yeah.
well, he's been living down here for a long time, so he just goes back and forth. He used to work in the oil fields. But he was making a ton of money up there. But the fact is, he wants to be a part of this, and he's so told me, he said he's always wanted to go ahead and be a part of my businesses and wants to be a part of that growth because he sees what's possible. So with that, because I have multiple businesses already, he's involved in one, and I'm expanding that business dramatically this year. And he wants to be a part of that expansion, because that means he's going to get the opportunity he'll be running other project managers is what it comes down to. So, and then helping create other divisions, because we've got plans on bringing some of the trades in-house that we're going to go ahead and run also.
Now, what about if you don't have somebody like we're looking to buy a 50 unit in a different state?
Okay.
You don't know anybody. Where would you start to find somebody?
Well, some of the great places, because of the fact that you're involved in things like this with RIA. So if you're you're going into a different area that you've never been involved in before, reaching out to RIAs in that area, and or even if the RIAs aren't necessarily interested in going ahead and sending you out to the owner or sending you out to their members. So just being involved in their Facebook groups. So if you can go to a meeting there, and start asking around. So, and making those contacts. Hey, if I'm going to hire someone to project manage, who would you hire to project manage? This is your project. Who are you going to have to do that? So, and that's literally like, I get a ton of referral business that way. So obviously on the homeowner side of things, of course, because no one wants their home to be the homeowner nightmare story, so that they've heard so many times about. But that's literally the best way to go ahead and get it, is get a referral from somebody else. And since you're dealing with real estate investors, so talking to real estate investors, because most investors aren't looking to hire a project manager to run things. They want someone to come in and do the job, and get out the door. So whenever you start asking for that, that's a different piece. So you're typically not going to compete with another real estate investor on that front.
Right.
So that's the first place. You have lots of people who go ahead and say, go to like HD and Lowe's. I would never go to HD and Lowe's to find anybody for anything.
No.
I hate to offend anybody that might be an HD or Lowe's contractor who does stuff through there. That's all well and good. But that's not what I'm looking for. Now, what I would actually do though, is if you're looking for someone to do project management of those pieces, go to actually your building supply stores. Like 84 Lumber is one of the places that I use for a lot of my building supplies. I've got a trim supplier that I've got for my trim supplies, so that I'll ask him for certain things whenever I'm looking for. And whenever I'm looking for people, I ask, who do you know who's looking to get into the supervisory role and get out of the field?
I got another one I'm going to throw out there for you, because
Sure.
we were dealing with it a couple of years ago.
Mhm.
Your local code enforcer. They do side work.
And you could, it all depends on how much time they're allowed to actually have for that. And I guess that's really the key piece when you're talking project manager. I always think of full-time because of what the business that I'm in on that side. And that really depends. And that's part of what you want to be focused on ahead of time. What do you need them for? How much time do they actually need to be on your jobs on a weekly basis? Because if it is something that's just part-time, so if the code enforcer is working in the areas where you have your properties and they've got some flexibility in their schedule where they're not being watched all the time, it could very well work out for something.
Or even an inspector. Like our code enforcer, we approached him after he got fired.
Right.
He got fired.
They actually fire inspectors?
Yeah,
the
they
town
did here.
The town fired him, but before he was a code enforcer, he was actually a project manager for a big construction company.
Right.
So he knew how to manage projects.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's something people could do is, look at potentially code enforcers or inspectors if they've been recently let go, or, look at RIAs in the area and see if there's anybody out there.
Right.
And
a lot of times, especially when you start looking into RIAs, or if you start looking for people who are like a larger apartment buildings and they're like the maintenance person, but they do like 6 different phases in that apartment building, like they take care of that many different things. Those are good people because they're typically good with, well, A, they've got industry knowledge. So that's what they typically have. And then B, at the same time, so they're usually able to manage multiple projects at once. So which is key whenever you're doing project management.
Cool. Harry asked, do you have any references in Volusia County, Florida? Sorry, it was Volusia County.
For a property manager, Harry, I would have to go ahead and reach out to my connections to ask about a property manager in Volusia. So I make it out to the coast every once in a while to go to the beach. So, but my work is mainly in Central Florida. So in the counties right in, there's a group of counties around here, about 5 counties that I typically work in. So, and Volusia is not one of them. That's too far of a drive. It's not worth it for me.
So is there a local RIA over there?
Probably.
I'm actually CFRI, which is the RIA in Orlando. That's Central Florida Realty Investors. So they have subchapters in in the majority of the counties. And if I'm not mistaken, they have a subchapter in Volusia. So from what I remember.
So there you go, Harry.
There you go.
Reach out to that RIA group over there and see if you can find somebody.
And I know there's definitely property managers, is just finding the one that's out there. because you are going to want someone who's, depending on where you are in Volusia. So if you're on the water, you want to know somebody that actually knows how to deal with those things, because you have a whole bunch of maintenance items that you need to take care of if you're right on the ocean.
Right. You got any questions from here or no?
Nope, just a whole bunch of people watching.
Okay. Just double checking on the Facebook side.
I asked them if anybody has any questions. It's a lot of people get shy about asking questions because they think that it's a stupid question, but that's only if you don't ask it.
Yeah, that's how
In my
it is.
opinion.
It's only stupid if you don't ask it.
Well, and the last thing you want to do is walk away from something like this where you have the chance. I mean, for me, I'm an open book. I'll tell you whether it's about this, whether it's about my real estate investing, whether it's about the business coach I do, whatever you want an answer on, ask the question. I have an answer for you. So, or a resource to send you to, one of the two. So.
Oh, laugh out loud. I tuned in because I missed Keith's face.
Laura's one of my students. Love you, Laura. So, and Tamesh.
Hi, Laura.
Yeah, hi, Laura.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. It must be tough for you because you don't, I mean, you're seeing Zoom, but you're not, the interaction with people isn't there right now.
Right.
physically.
That's definitely harder for us. So a different way of approaching everything is what it comes down to.
So, all right. Let's see. We were talking about, before we got into the questions.
Well, and here's one of the big things. I know you're looking to be able to, well, we just had a whole bunch of things pop in. So if there's questions, go ahead and ask the questions. And then I've got some other stuff so that I can help everybody with as real estate investors, really when it comes to working with contractors.
What type of info do you put into your Google Docs to share?
Gotcha. And I had mentioned that earlier whenever I said information. So the information that I have is all about my projects. It's almost like Nancy was reading my mind. So whenever she posted that, because literally that was part of where I was going to go. So is the reason why I'm so effective with all of my trades is because I have the information they need on what they're going to be putting into the house. So they've got models, and so they can get the specs of everything that's going into the house. So whenever my cabinet guys, before they come in, they know every appliance that's going in the house. My plumber knows all of the rough-in valves that he needs to bring ahead of time so he can order them. So you're not giving it to him, the night before, and now he's attempting to source that and spending 2 hours at the plumbing warehouse going ahead and getting that from the supply shop, wasting his time, where if he got ahead and placed an order, they could have it delivered to his shop or to the job site either way. So, and those are some of the pieces, Nancy. So like literally for me, when I say it's a color sheet, it's everything. So if you look around in a room, and you're going to go ahead and put, like in a kitchen, you've got cabinet. So it's cabinet colors. So cabinet door designs, countertop color, edge design on the countertop. So if you got windows in that kitchen, the color of the frames on the windows, if you're replacing those, whatever my floor covering is. So if it's tile, whatever the grout color is that goes with it. So what my paint colors are for my walls, my ceilings, and my trim. So my light fixtures that are going in there, if I'm putting in LED bulbs, so the rating, which is a temperature rating on the LED bulbs of what the temperature rating is. I mean, literally every detail for my houses is in those Google spreadsheets. So that I go ahead and share with them. So they actually have a full color sheet of everything that they need to have. So there's no question. It's not, hey, what am I putting in white electrical trims or am I putting in ivory electrical trims? So they go right to that sheet and boom, it's right there. So the other thing that you can do when you're doing your projects, there's two ways to do this. You can literally create the color sheets, print them out and take them to your job sites. So, and if you've got either a sliding glass door or a wall or a 15 light, French door or something like that. So put them on there. So literally tape them on there. So the color sheets, because now it's easy to access for anybody who's in the job and if they need information. Like I'll send subs out to go ahead and measure stuff. And it's like, they'll call me and I'm like, the job sheet's right there. Just go ahead and take a look at it. It'll tell you, my shower enclosure guy. All right. For my hinges on that, I need to have satin nickel hinges on the master shower. So he can find that information right there. So he's able to double check his information that he had whenever he came out. So that's a lot of the information that I put in those Google Sheets that I share. I mean, I use Google Sheets for a lot of other things, for budget tracking for my jobs and everything like that is what I use that for, but that doesn't get shared with my trades. They don't need to see that. That's for me and my team to see. So on that side of things, they don't need to see that stuff. Yeah, I don't need to see that I got 3 different plumbing bids on there. So, and what the pricing was from all 3 of them. That's usually not going to work out for anybody.
No. You just have all the details of the project on the sheets.
That's exactly
each different area,
And truthfully, that is one of the biggest keys, because most people that come to me, whether it's an investor calling me wanting me to do the remodel for them, or whether it's a homeowner calling me to do their job, so very rarely do they have all the information. And it's a huge, I talk to my trades all the time. There's 2 things that I do. that they love, and it's one of the reasons why they show up on my jobs. So one is they have all their information they need to. Actually, there's three things. Two is I communicate so they don't have dry runs. And three is I pay them on time. So they finish the job, they get paid the next day.
Okay.
That was what it comes down.
That's key where a lot of people fall short. They're like, well, I can pay you next week, even though you finished,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, I got a week. We had a month later. No,
Yeah.
we like to pay our contractors as you finish.
If I don't eat, that's on me, you know, but
Right.
the
Yeah.
contractors have to get paid for doing their work. Now, if they don't do their work, that's a different story.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's like why mine's always the next day. So it's when I'll go ahead and send the check out from whenever they send me the invoice, because if I haven't had a chance to check the job yet, one of my team can check the job to make sure it's complete and we don't need anything else taken care of.
Right.
So that's why the check will get cut the next day for them.
And
But
it-
yeah, I believe in that wholeheartedly. I know other GCs so who have their business and they'll get paid whenever the draw comes from the bank is when they'll pay everybody else. And I always tell myself, I'm like, did you joint venture with them on this job? So, because if you didn't, so you shouldn't be tied into whenever they're getting their money. So you did your work, so you should be getting paid by whatever your terms are or their terms are, depending on what's going on for billing. But they all know that they get paid right away. My framer literally every week, he goes, all right, I need a draw for X. So he gives me a dollar amount that he needs a draw for on the projects he's working on for me. So, and I bring him a check on Friday and have him sign off on his lien release right then.
Yeah, that's the other thing. I get that a lot with people. When do you pay your contractors?
Mm-hmm.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday?
So
You have
I pay
specific
mine whatever day the day after they submit their invoice.
Right.
Is what I literally do not have and I know other contractors that go ahead and do it. And if we pay on the 1st, or we pay on the 15th or whatever that might be. If they're done with their job, I don't expect them to wait. So send me the invoice. So now there may be every once in a while I'll miss a day because of the fact that I've just had too many things and didn't get the invoices that day. And I know which ones I can do that with, and they're okay with it because they've worked with me for a long time. And it's not like I'm not feeding their family that night. So with what I'm sending them, they're well funded. So on those types of things. But yeah, no, I always do that. And that's one of the, I have other people that are like, I don't want to handle that way. Well, you know what? I would rather have them getting their invoices in and getting paid and showing up on my job sites. Cause whenever I have, and this is a key, whenever I have something that I need done like this, or I need a favor done, or the house springs a leak somewhere, guess who shows up on my job sites?
Yeah.
Yep. Oh yeah.
What
Leverage.
about no, you say you write the checks out. Do you mean you literally write the checks out, or because some contractors
Yeah, no, they
don't
do.
take like an invoice, or they don't have like a clicker so that you can pay it by Square or
Right.
credit card or something. So some don't. So
For those ones like that, Tab. So if they send me, and most of my guys just send me a traditional invoice. I'll have a few of them that give you that online option to pay the invoice type of thing. And there's
Yeah.
more of them that are going that route, especially as they start using some of the apps that are out there because the app gives that option. But they'll go to, no, typically whenever I say I pay them, so they invoice me, everything I do is electronic banking.
okay.
So there's the only people that get paid the next day with a check in their hand. For the first 9 years of my business, for this construction business, I didn't even have a physical checking account for it because I didn't want it. I wanted that sent in. I wanted it sent through my electronic stuff because I use my electronic banking to go ahead and merge with my QuickBooks. So, which is how I go ahead and track my bookkeeping. So, and whenever it does that, it does it automatically. So I don't have to worry about it. So whereas if I go ahead and handwrite a check, then I've got to go in, someone's got to go in and actually say what that check was because it doesn't read the same way when it comes from my bank. So.
Gotcha.
Oh, there's some
Al
questions.
had a question. He said, trust has to play in this whole thing. I can't see investing outside of my area since I'd like to be around my properties.
Mhm.
How do you build that trust with an unknown party?
One of the biggest things that we talk about with all the students that we coach, so with Paul's group, is we all trust blindly until somebody proves us different. So is what it comes down to. And that can be a challenge to do for a lot of people, especially if you've been burned and you've got that history so that you're going back to and you go back and touch that pain point. It's like, oh, I'm not going to do that again. So when I do after action reviews, which I talked about a little bit earlier, so from anything, so if there was a challenge that happened before, I figure out, all right, why did that challenge happen? Was it me? So was it the person? Was it the process? So where did this fall down? And we analyze where it falls down and make it different. All right. Now, typically, whenever I look at it, most cases, so it's either myself falling down in something that I didn't do well enough or the process not being strong enough. And that's where we have the issue. Al, as far as that goes, there's a reason why my contract went from a 2-page contract to I'm now at 13 pages. So for my contracts, for my renovations, and it's because of those pieces where something happens. All right, that's my way of going ahead and taking care of that is I go ahead and the new clause enters the contract and we get a little bit longer. So for the next homeowner that's doing a contract. But the big thing whenever it comes down to that is I also know, and this is my mindset piece that we talked about when we started this, my biggest opportunities are going to come. So whenever I go ahead and expand outside of my area, because outside of now, instead of just doing a very small or a smaller number of options or opportunities, my opportunities get bigger. So which means I can go ahead and get bigger deals. I can have more deals. So, and when the big thing that I look at is whenever you invest outside of your own backyard, it now becomes a business because you're going to build a team. So which means this is now replicatable. And I know Scott and Tab brought me on for the one fact that, or one of the biggest reasons was because I operate remotely. Well, the reason I operate remotely or the reason I can do all this is because I do look at it this way. So I look to put people in place, give them the opportunity to go ahead and perform. So, and I do live with whatever happens. And that's the hard part for most people is being able to live with that. Is it going to work or is it not going to work? There's no guarantees in life. There's no guarantee in life if it's in your backyard that you found the right person in your backyard to go ahead and take care of you either.
Yeah, I think that's a fear that people have. It's gonna. What if it fails?
Taking the hat off and letting
Taking the
somebody
hats off.
else
Taking the hats off.
let
Yep.
somebody else do it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
We
then,
could pull that
and
up.
for Al, one of the big things you can do there is like if you go ahead and hire a contractor outside of your area to go ahead and run that, have a realtor going in and taking pictures and checking up on what they're doing. So have a third party essentially that's checking up on it to make sure, and they're sending you pictures or giving you reports. So, and in those cases, the other part of that goes, make sure they're giving you what work's going to be done along with picture evidence that work is being done. So before you ever go ahead and pay them. And that's why I want the third party to go in. It's no different than what the banks do for me on my draws. They send a third party out. So I can send anything in and say, hey, we did X, Y, and Z. They're going to send a bank inspector out to look at everything. And the bank inspector goes, all right, well, he's got all the framing done that he can have done to this point. So we're going to pay him 75% of that. So we're going to pay him X amount of this. And they tell us how much of the work is done as far as what their scope is. And then they go ahead and get it paid. That's one way to use your realtor. That's my favorite one when it's remote like that, is using my realtor as the person to go ahead and back that up and check in on what's going on the jobs to make sure that it's moving, especially before I give money out. Because you never want to get ahead of those guys. Anyone who's remote like that, you never want to get ahead of where they should be as far as their payment schedule goes.
Yeah. Plus, they want the house finished so they can put it on the market and get their commission.
Yeah.
And they're motivated in that, and they'll have that conversation. Yes.
Yeah. Plus, they're great.
Yeah.
They're a great team player because you're going to do every time you need to sell a property, you have to sell it to somebody unless you're going to spend time marketing it and
Well,
showing.
and so often, I mean, you end up getting the deals that come in. So they end up a lot of times getting both sides of that. So buying and the selling, because they may have been the one that brought you the deal. If that's who you usually would go ahead and bring those deals. So they're happy as heck to be able to help
Yeah,
you out.
that's how we operate. We whatever we buy to a realtor that's distressed property, then we give them that first dibs on selling it. You know, we tell them you have a time frame. If you don't sell in this time frame, we bring our realtor in that we know is going to sell in 2 weeks tops.
Or buy it. He
Or
has
buy
a
it,
choice. Well, you've heard of Robert Jakansky? He's we buy New Jersey type.
Okay.
He's like everywhere. He works with Barbara Cochran.
Okay.
So if the realtor doesn't sell it, you got 3 months. If it's not sold, he's gonna sell.
He
He's gonna
owns it.
buy it or he's
Yep.
gonna sell it. It's one or the other.
And that's perfect. So whenever they're
Yeah.
willing to back that up, I love that confidence in any realtor. So, and I know that's what they do with that realty group. So is that
Yeah.
that is
Yeah,
what they
they-
promise.
They're probably the biggest in the state. They
Yeah.
do over 1,000 deals a year. So,
Yeah.
Chris is a startup investor looking to wholesale. What is the best way to find investors and where to find hard money? I don't know if you want to answer that. We could always answer that.
If you want to answer, you can. I'll go ahead and
Hard money
answer
we
it.
can answer.
That's your ball game, so I'll let you
Yeah.
go ahead and talk that one first.
We can answer that one.
Well, the hard money, right here. We got Arcad.
Right. You want to find investors, right? Join RIA groups and look for people who are buying. Right now, there's no
Call
physical
us.
groups going on. Yeah, depending on where you're at, you call us. We're buyers. We buy houses. But you can join Facebook groups. You can look on Meetup for RIA groups, join them, get on Zoom calls, start making relationships by talking to people. People are going to talk. You're going to find out who your buyers are. So that's one way you can find buyers right now. Hard Money, same thing. They're all in the groups. You'll find them on Zoom meetings. We have Arcade Capital. They're our vendor, our hard money vendor of our group, CNJ, REIG.
Yeah,
They're out of Plainfield. We like working with them because the owner of the company is actually an investor. He started out doing what we do, flipping. Now he does lending. So he's got to flipping, landlording, developing, lending. He does it all still. So he knows every aspect and every mindset of the game, not just from a lending perspective.
he's-
So, but same thing, go to REIA groups, look, you'll find them on there.
Let me add something into that, Scott. So as far as those pieces go, two of the things that I do. So whenever you're looking for, especially if you're looking for lenders and investors, talk to your title companies. Because if you talk to your title companies, so especially if you've got a title company that's real or is real estate investor friendly, they'll have multiple real estate investors that they know that are in the market. So doing things. So, and a lot of times they'll actually refer you straight to that person and say, hey, go talk to whoever this is. They're the one that's, they're the fix and flip guy in the area. They're the guy that's rehabbing a ton of properties in your area that you're looking to go and do this. So they can give you that immediate piece. And the other question to ask, so is let them know, hey, I'm a real estate investor. And I always reach out and talk to people. So about who is lending money right now in this environment to real estate investors. So, and if you would have anybody, so either if you would do an introduction, that would be great. I would love that. So, and ask them, some will, some won't. I'm not gonna say everybody's going to do it. So, but you will get some people to go ahead and do that. And they're the ones dealing with people all the time that are closing deals. So.
Yeah, and that's a great point because you're going to need them as a team member anyway. So you probably could start working with, start contacting some of the title agencies in the area. I mean,
I have one other one. If you do some research, it's actually public record. If you find people that gave a cash mortgage, you know how you send out a yellow letter to a house? Well, I'll send out yellow letters to that cash mortgage and say, hey, I invest in the area. Are you still looking to buy in this area?
Right.
I see you gave, so there's that one. I found that one from somebody else I heard. I was like, duh. Never thought about that one.
And
Whoever
if you're,
gives cash mortgages.
and if you're driving for dollars in your area at all, or at least paying attention to what's going on as far as houses are being fixed and flipped. So as you start to see that, if you're identifying houses that are distressed, so, and then all of a sudden you're starting to see that house, so come back to life. So find out, either stop by the house if they're doing work. So if you stop by, the workers, like my workers know. So whenever somebody stops by, so they give my information out. There's no question about that because of the fact that they want to make sure they take care of me because I take care of them. So, and secondly, so they know I do all of those pieces or I have other people that do that. So they'll go ahead and refer that back to me. So if you ask them, they'll say, hey, so-and-so is the one that's doing this, or at least here's the GC that hired me to do this job. You can call the GC. The GC will let you know whoever the investor was that actually hired them to take care of this. So that's one way to go ahead and figure that piece out. Also, if you're staying abreast of what's going on in your community.
Yeah. I don't know if you may have mentioned this. Nancy asked, do you have the same SKU number and materials continuously on all your jobs?
I have, for real estate investors, typically you're going to want to do that unless you're stepping up into different price points of homes. So if you're in that same, you've got your same sweet spot that you always work in. Yes. So use that same piece. I remember whenever I first started, there was a guy who painted every exterior of his house a certain shade of orange. So on the outside, literally I drove, it wasn't a bright orange, but we're in Florida, but we're not that much. I'm not in Key West. So as far as that goes, so we're not that bright up here. So that you would drive past, it was kind of like a burnt orange type of color. I could tell in town every house that was his because he had rentals. So that's what he had. So I'd drive past I knew every one of his rentals. So it was real easy. But you can get to it being that specific for sure. I tend to mix my stuff up a little bit on that side of things, meaning like paint colors and tile and things like that. Those types of things I tend to mix up a little bit in my projects, just to go ahead and give them a little bit of a different look on the ones where I do the investing side of things too. But you can definitely do that. There are certain things, even for my projects on the construction side, I've got certain doors that I like to use, certain baseboard styles that I like to go ahead and use. So, and those are the pieces that I always recommend to somebody whenever we're doing anything. So yeah, you can definitely do that. And it makes it easy. One of the best things is this is take a lesson off of what we refer to on our side of the business as production builders. Those are the big national builders that build thousands of homes a year. So if you go in to talk to one of them, so everything in all of their area is literally always the same. You usually have 2 color selections that you can make a selection off of. So whenever you're choosing your flooring, it'll have your flooring, your cabinets, your countertops, and everything on this board, or you can have option B, and it's all the same thing. The reason why they do that is it makes errors very infrequent. So,
Right.
and that's what they want to make it as easy as they can on their contractors coming in. So there's less of a chance of something happening that costs them money. So doing something like that, it's easy. They know whether it's the right thing. So yes, as long as you're staying up on the current trends. So I don't want you to start doing this now and in 10 years still be putting the same colors in the houses. So it's not going to work out for you.
You have to be aware of what's going on in the marketplace.
Correct.
But
Yeah.
it's also for their budget. You know what the materials cost in the budget. You know what is going in every house. Makes it easier for all the contractors and the price points and everything.
Correct.
I think the materials you could kind of do the same. You
Certain
just have to
things,
change the colors.
Mhm.
You know, so try to pick a material that is versatile, basically.
The one question: how do you deal with contractors where inspection is needed? Do you pay them when they're done, or you wait till the inspections
I don't
pass?
know. That way, if we're talking, and I saw that question was from Chris. So
Chris, yes.
Chris, whenever, and if you're talking about there's a city or county inspection, whoever your inspecting authority is, they get paid after the inspection's done. So because of the fact that if you don't, so the challenge is, hey, you could go ahead and pay them out. Now they're good to go. And now they're not going to show. It may take them a while to show back up. Whereas if you've got their money, they're back as soon as they can. That's the biggest thing. So yeah, definitely I only do mine after they've been inspected. So now it's also, and this is with new contractors, the guys that I've been working with for a decade or a decade and a half. So those guys, whenever they send me their invoice, are going to get paid because I know they're also coming back because I've got such a big book of work for them and they're not going anywhere. So those ones, they'll get a little bit different, but anybody who's new, no question about it, you've got to get your inspection with the city or county first.
Yeah. Now, if it's somebody you've worked with, have you ever said, okay, well, it's a third, say, and on the final payment, say, well, I'm going to hold a third of that third, give you the rest, and then when it passes inspection, I'll give you the final part of it.
And if you've got trades like certain municipalities that I work in, so you can only get the final inspection after everything, meaning all the building and all the trades are ready to go. So it can't be like the HVAC guy comes in and trims out after I paint and he's ready to get paid. Well, yeah, I've typically with him, so he'll get paid the majority of the stuff and I'll hold something. So for that piece, but make sure, and the key to that, so is to make sure that stuff's all stated in the beginning. And if you call somebody in like that, like if I call my HVAC guy in Seminole County down here, so I'm not calling my inspection till the very end. And that means I've got to have all the other trades done, plus my building stuff done, which means grading, landscaping, all that kind of stuff is taken care of too. I know that's going to be a long road for them to haul. So I'm not going to go ahead and hold all their money. So it's not fair to them.
Do you have any questions over there? No.
No, over
Okay.
here.
Um,
Robin said hi, actually.
oh, Robin said hi. What other tools or apps do you use in your business that can help people out?
And there's a couple of them whenever it comes down to, I use organizational pieces. So I talked about mind maps a little bit. So, but there's 2 definite project management pieces that I use. So one's called Trello. It's Trello. So, and the other is Basecamp. And I know Scott, Tab, Ashley, so Laura, Tamesh, Robin, if she's still there. So all are familiar with that one because we use that on the coaching side also. I use Trello for my business, so for my construction business. So that's the one that I use for that because it's easier for me on that side of things to be able to share things and track things. So that's why I use that one.
What is Trello? And for those that don't know.
Trello it's literally a project management piece. And what they do is they create what they call boards. So for every one of my jobs, I go in and create a board. So, and that's just the name of the project. So, or the address of the project. So is all it is. And then inside of there, so I actually templated out where I've got certain headings in there for everything. I've got, project or pieces to do, action items to do, things that are in progress, things that are completed. I've got an area for pictures. I've got an area for documents. So that are all inside of there. So that's where all of the information on each one of my projects ends up. So that's where all my bids go. So if I've got to refer back to something, I've got that back there from the contractors. So it's where all my color sheets are at, the Google Drive link, so that we talked about earlier with Nancy. So that Google Drive link is in there. So any of my team can go in there and click on that project and go ahead and click on that Google Drive link, and it takes them to that color sheet right away. So to know what's going on for that job. So for me, it's an organizational piece. My mind maps, a copy of the mind map gets uploaded in there, so they know what's
Oh, so-
going on.
okay,
the jobs.
you put the mind maps in there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, Robin uses Trello also.
Yep.
It's one of the ones that's more popular out there that I've seen a lot of other investors using as well. Trello. Some use,
It's real
oh,
easy to play with, and it's
yes.
click and drag is the big thing on the inside of it, which is the thing that I like to. So I'm real big on anything that's click and drag whenever you're using it, just because I'm so used to it with everything else.
I can do that.
Yeah.
Me and electronics are not friends, as you noticed. I had technical difficulties.
I'm not
Hey, you
seeing
got the
any,
technical difficulty taken care of. It wasn't a big deal.
Yeah, I shut them off.
That works. So sometimes that's the only way.
I'm not seeing any questions right now. So what I
We
want to
answered all
do,
the ones over here.
yeah. So what I want to do real quick was go.
Well, and
over-
actually, here's one that I'm going to put out there, Scott, before you jump. So on that
Okay.
piece. So is if you're not using it, and I'm always surprised whenever I say this because there's a lot of people that go, I don't use anything like that. So if you, for everything you're doing scheduling wise, have something that's recorded in. For our business, I've got a Gmail account for the business. Everything that's going on as far as who's supposed to be where, when, so ends up in that Google Calendar. And when
Okay.
you're operating teams, so that's like with my project manager. So that's shared with him. He goes in there and he knows where everybody's supposed to be. So whether he scheduled them or I scheduled them, which is key when there's multiple chiefs running the
Right.
projects, you need to know what's going on. So, and it's something that's so simple and something that gets overlooked so much. And that goes to team communication and being effective in that. Because if not, contractors a lot of times are like children. So they know how to play divide and conquer. So they'll go wherever they want to get the best answer that works for them, and they'll do exactly that. And then whenever you go ahead and say, well, this is what I told you, well, so-and-so told me this, and that's what I went ahead and did that. If you've got that area to communicate like that, so for the calendar on the scheduling side, plus Trello as far as what's actually going on in the project, there's less gray areas. So it's a lot easier to make sure things are happening the way everybody wants them to.
Right. Plus Google's free, Gmail's free, so you don't have to pay
Exactly.
for
It's
it.
awesome. I love free stuff.
Expense.
So, and like for the mind mapping piece, I use Xmind is the name of it, the letter X, mind.net.
Right.
So I still use the free version to this day. So
Yeah.
I don't need the functionality pieces that you need to pay for. It's not something I need in my business, so I don't go ahead and get them. There's no reason for it.
Yeah, and that's for people who are starting out. They may not have the funds to
Yep.
start getting into some applications that cost funds on top of other expenditures that they're doing. So it's good
I
to
always
see.
look for free first. If free works, so
Yeah.
use free.
Freeze for me.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's exactly it. I'm good with free.
keeps the
Yeah.
budget. And of course, you
like it
mentioned
too.
before that you use QuickBooks.
Right.
Do you do the bookkeeping yourself, or do you have somebody that does it for you?
Well, as far as the bookkeeping stuff, so much of my stuff's done online, meaning it integrates automatically so
Okay.
that it's easy enough to go ahead and do. Like most of my stuff matches, and all I really do is go ahead and click, and it posts
All right.
everything out. Now, as far as the actual bookkeeping and balancing, that will go to my accountant.
Okay.
So for him to take care of all of those pieces. But most of the stuff, like I said, rolls over. Now, as far as the breaking a receipt down, so for what actually my team is really good. So whenever they buy something for a specific project. So that keeps everything at least segregated to whatever that project is. So as opposed to going in and buying for 6 different projects at one time on one receipt, which then the bookkeeper would literally kill me on. That was what
Yeah.
ended up happening. So stay away from that if you can. So.
We've gotten into that with one of our painters. He bought paint for our project and
Oh
another
my
one. and-
gosh, he's
it was a
screwed
big
up
mess.
our
We're like, who's
entire
this?
account.
We
I
have to
don't know
fix it.
what happened.
Yeah,
And that's
but
exactly
yeah, you got to keep an eye on them if they do that. If they commingle accounts.
We had somebody else says it's you become a professional babysitter when it comes to contractors.
Literally what it boils down to, it's so funny because that someone said that. People ask me all the time, what do you do? Then that's what I'll tell them. I'm a professional babysitter. So I make an awful lot of money to make sure people do what they're supposed to do. So that's
Right.
what it
Yeah.
boils down to.
And that's why general contractors and project managers make more money than the actual regular labor or contractor, because you have to manage all the contractors, and it becomes a headache and frustration after a while, because you're like, what happened? Wait, why'd you do that? And you're all over the place instead of just focused on what needs to be focused on. So,
It's a different skill set. I mean, and that's one of the things I say is I've got so many contractors that are great at what they do.
mhm.
And
Yeah.
when it comes to running a business, so I wonder how they're still in business is what it comes down to. But as long as I keep showing up
Yeah.
on my jobs and doing a great job, I keep sending them a check. So, and then I pray that they're there for the next job. So
Yeah, most contractors don't even know how they operate. They really don't.
Right.
They're
No.
like
Oh,
living
it's-
paycheck to paycheck, and they don't even know if they're in the red or the black.
Exactly.
What's
So
going on.
It's no
some-
different than whenever, heck, whenever I first, whenever you were younger and you're a teenager and you got that first job and you were making money, whatever was in the
Mhm.
account is what you had to spend. So, and it's the way a lot of them look at it. And obviously, as a business owner, you got to be looking a little further past what's in the bank account. So,
I have a question. Now you
Sure.
got me thinking about it. What do you do with the contractors that come up and say, "Oh, can you give me a little draw so I can meet the payroll for
the
this week?" Have you ever gotten those questions when you're on a?
I've
big
never
job?
heard that one before, Tab, ever. And whenever that happens, the biggest thing that I bank on then is relationship. If it's somebody that's new, it's very simple. So while the way we operate is whenever you complete X amount of the job, then we go ahead and actually pay you for that is what it comes down to. And those are stated in our contracts with our subcontractors. Here's what you need to do. Here's how you're getting paid. So whenever that happens. Now, if they're in a big house, like some of the houses I build, I'm in the middle of a $2.3 million new construction house right now. So those for my framer, it's not your typical draw schedule. So they're going to come to you
Yeah.
for draws because they need to. Yet at the same time, if they've been there, the whole week, they've made progress, things are going up. So then I will go ahead and give that to them. So, but those are typically for me, those are people that have been around a lot longer. So I know they aren't going anywhere. For the new ones, I'm a lot more hesitant to go ahead and give somebody that kind of draw because of the fact that I don't need them disappearing on me. Because even if I do progression draws with somebody that's new, if somebody else has to come in and complete the work, the challenge is always going to be more than what I typically have left in the budget. So if that would end up happening, because they'll come in and even if they've got to do it, they're going to start saying, hey, well, I got to take care of this and I got to do that and I got to do that. And all of a sudden the price is higher.
Yeah,
There goes the budget.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. So
there's timing, there's everything.
Yeah.
yeah, and that's it. So
Any
it
questions?
really does come down to experience. on
No,
that
I'm
piece.
just chatting with everybody
Okay.
over here on
Um,
Facebook Watch Party.
we're over time a bit, but I want to throw in the other aspect of
Yeah.
what you do at this point
Sure.
is part of what you're talking about leads into it is the accountability. You're a great accountability coach because that's
Right.
part of what you do is you're a coach.
Right.
But one thing most people don't do is have accountability, hold themselves accountable, hold others accountable.
Right.
So, I just wanted you to touch base on that. Like, how can people hold themselves accountable to hold other people accountable and to do things and keep it on track and in budget?
And coaching
And it's-
skills. Do you
I was
do-
going to say one of the big things that I go ahead and look at, and this is one of the things I do with all of my subcontractors. So it's a great way, and it goes right into the accountability piece that you're talking about, Scott. So is whenever the guys, before they start their phase of the house, so whenever the plumber's coming in, it's like, all right, the question I was asking is how many days is it going to take you to do what you're here to do? So, and they'll give me, it's going to take me 3 days to go ahead and do rough 2 on the house. So, all right, got it. So it's going to take you 3 days. So if I go ahead and give you an extra day, I'm covered in case something happens, which things do happen, especially in renovations, because you catch the unknowns all the time in a renovation. Same as for all of you for your fix and flips. How many times have you opened the wall and went, oh shit? So, because that's what happened.
Yep. That's why you have that oh shit budget.
That's exactly it. So those things will go ahead and throw your schedule off a little bit. So, but I asked that question because then if I give them an extra day of padding beyond that, and they say, yes, I'll definitely be done by then. Now, again, you've got their agreement that this is when it's going to be done by. So if it doesn't get done by then, you're able to go back and ask. And it's the biggest piece of accountability. So it's not necessarily getting their agreement, but going ahead and following up on it. So if it doesn't happen that way. And that's why I always want the communication coming out of their mouth of what it's going to take, because now it's easier for me to hold them accountable. So and the two of you know from coaching calls. So whenever we've been on them, I'll always ask the question of what's your commitment? What are your action items? What are you going to be doing? So because when you give me those pieces and it came out of your mouth, now it becomes easy for me to go ahead and follow up on. And I'd say one of the big pieces on the accountability side of things, and this is the things that you want to make sure happen. So with the accountability side of things, we talk about this in the coaching program is you want to set very clear expectations, which means if they're supposed to do something, exactly what they're going to do. So by when? Okay. So those are two of the biggest pieces. And the by when piece, so is the piece that gets forgotten about a lot.
Yep.
So is when it's going to be done.
So what do you do as far as, I wouldn't call it a punishment, but what is if they don't reach that deadline, what happens? Like, how do you,
And typically the first time, so, you know, if it's they missed it by a day or something like that, a lot of times I still jam whatever the next trade is in on top of them. You told me you'd be done by Thursday, so which meant I had my guys scheduled for Friday, and we're on schedule for everybody else. So you're going to see extra people in the house. So, but what I look for, and it's anything I look for is with consistency. If they are consistently off from what they tell me, so then I'll bring it up. So whenever they're making their commitment, if they're always a day later than what they tell me or 2 days later than what they tell me, so which I will say this, the best way to know how long something's going to take is you talk to the owner of the company, then talk to the guys that are actually doing the work.
yes.
Because the guys doing the work will always tell you what it's really going to be. And that's what it, because the owner of the company is like, oh yeah, it's going to take 2 days. So whenever I'm like, all right, perfect. So whenever they leave site, I look at the guys and I'm like, how many days is this really going to take? Yeah, I said, are you going to be done in 2 days? There's no way this is going to happen in 2 days. So this is at least 3 days, if not 4. All right, got it. And I don't let the owner know that piece. So I go ahead and I hold that piece back, but that's how I make my plan is based off of what those guys tell me if they're the ones doing the work. So I go ahead and make the plan that way, knowing that that's more likely. And that doesn't mean I'm not going back to my owner after the 2 days and the bonus day that I gave him and he's still not done. So we're still going to have that conversation. And what I look for is if they're consistently late like that. So 2 things need to happen. Either they need to be able to give me better expectations. So I start looking for somebody else. So because I look at everything on my jobs, if you don't do this on your jobs, so you're going to end up lackadaisical on how far you push people. So I literally take down the whole job divided by the number of days that it should take to do the job. So for what my profit's going to be. So, and for all of you as investors, it's add up all your costs, including your holding costs.
Yep.
So add up all those pieces.
Yep.
What does it cost per day if they don't hit that? So I divide that whole piece out and I can look at, so I can literally say to them, well, here's the challenge. So you cost me, $175 today because you weren't done and I couldn't get the next trade in. And I'm not able to stay in business by going ahead and losing $175 a day. It becomes a very easy conversation. And they're like, all right, got it. So, and we go ahead and do that. Now, if they consistently do it, they're not around. And I know I saw somebody pop in about a performance clause. So I've done that on my side as far as working with homeowners because some of them have gone ahead and done that. Now, here's the thing. If you've got a performance clause in there, and this is the only thing I'll say every time, any homeowner has ever brought me saying, you have to have it done by this day or you're going to get penalized. My response back is, all right, great. Whatever that penalty is for every day that I bring it in ahead of that date. So I get a bonus of that same exact amount. So, and that's the part that I get that piece, but realize you've got to give them something. If you're going to put that penalty there too, they've got to have an incentive to get it done faster for you. So that's the fair way to play. Most of my guys, I don't worry about that piece. I don't do commercial stuff. So for me on the commercial side, that's a huge piece on commercial. There's no question about it. That's how the business operates.
Yeah,
But on the residential side, for most of your contractors, most of them will push back against a performance clause because that's very atypical on the residential side.
Okay, a little technical difficulty before I still can't get to all the comments, but John asked, I'm working
You're
on
getting
it.
there. It's a work in progress. That's fine, Tim.
I don't know why it happened tonight though. It's so weird. So in the areas that you invest, do you have intensive knowledge of that area? And have you been in that area previously?
In the areas and a lot of the areas I invest the areas that are local that I invest in, yes, I've got really good knowledge in those areas. So for the areas that are out of my area, because I do a lot of probate stuff is what I do, which means that a lot of times I'm investing in areas because I'll get calls even if I marketed in an area where I typically am, I'll get calls a lot of times from people that referred me to somebody else. So that's out of my area. So as far as that part goes. So I have a lot of times where I have zero knowledge. So of what's going on there. And it does come down to your team then. So, and the people you have to find, literally you have to create a team. That is what it comes down to in those areas.
Right. And how often, if at all, do you make actual visits to the job sites?
Either myself or my team on my projects are there daily. And I highly recommend that. So unless you get to the point where, if you've got team, like whenever I travel, I don't have to worry about it. My team's doing the follow-up pieces for me. And a lot of my guys have been around for a very long time with me. So I'm like, I've talked about a couple, decade and a half. I have a lot of long-time contractors that have worked with me, which means that they know how I operate. And the key to that piece is before I would go out of town, whenever I didn't have a team for someone to follow up, before I left, I met with all the people that were supposed to be in the project and were clear on exactly what they were supposed to do. So whenever they got there, so they knew everything. They already asked me the questions. So it eliminated a lot of that having to follow up and them getting stuck. So it didn't mean they didn't solve questions every once in a while, but it narrowed that field down a bit.
So you have team members that are more often at the job site than yourself, though, because you're
my project manager's on my job sites more than I am now. So,
Right.
But
you always have somebody showing up at the job site, double checking things.
Every day that we've got something going on a job site, there will be someone on that job site at some point during that day.
Good.
So you just do pop in.
You pop in,
See,
yeah,
I
no
like that.
schedule.
Oh yeah, that's exactly. I'll schedule like if there's a sub coming for their first day on that project. So whatever time they're going to be there, so someone will be there to meet them to walk the job and make sure everything is good. But other than that, for the ones that the electrician's taking a week in the house, he has no idea unless he's actually requested me to be there when I'm going to show up that day. So I just show up. So.
Yeah.
Right. He also said, John also asked if he's like us, he's interested in multifamily, but feels by the time he does the research, the property, if it's good, it's most likely gone.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about that one? Is it true?
Well, and then one of the things that I'll say is
Yes.
the question I would ask for John is how long does it take you to analyze the property?
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. Because the one piece that I always look at with these is, and I did this after those first two deals that I talked about where I lost a boatload of money. So on the first, I was paralysis analysis like there was no tomorrow. I would sit there and analyze. I'd get my comps. I'd rerun the comps. I would check it 6 ways this Sunday. So, and that's exactly what would happen. If it was a good property, it was gone by the time I got done playing around. So, and then if it wasn't a good property, then I had that backup of, well, this wasn't a good property. So it's a good thing I analyzed it the way I did. So I didn't have to worry about it. So that would be the piece. So really what I would say in this case, and one of the things that the two of you know after working with me as real estate investors, so the piece that I always say is put the offer out. So you can always back away from it because like when I do my stuff, I negotiate my deals on the phone before I ever see a property. So before my team ever sees a property, and it's based on whatever the seller is telling me is going on with the property right now. So I base it off of that. If I get out there and find out that they lied, shocker. So whenever it comes down to that, or they just omitted things, or they didn't think that needed to be done, and I know it has to be done to actually sell it. So in that case, we renegotiate the price then. So because it's not what they told me over the phone. So it's always speed of everything. Get it. Then that's one of the things. Get it locked up. I mean, you want to be within the ballpark. You don't want to go ahead and give them a full price offer and then come in and and you knew about challenges and then come in and go ahead and not attempt to knock off $100,000 off of that price. They're not going to be happy.
Yeah. Well,
But if they didn't tell you about it,
that's what's going to happen on a single family. Multifamilies is you need to know the market area right off the bat. If you don't know the market area, you're not going to know the numbers.
right.
And
that's literally it. And having a good team. So having a good realtor who can get you those numbers. So having good resources where you can pull them yourself. So for areas, so no question.
Yeah. And when multifamily, you have to know how to underwrite a deal. What's the NOI, what's your cash flow, cash on cash return,
Right.
what are you getting your doors, so you need to really know how to underwrite, or at least have the information so you can work with a team member, find a team member that knows how to underwrite very quickly. They know how to underwrite well. They'll get the numbers and just plug it in and say, here it is within like less than a half hour to an hour tops. And then of course, then you go to your due diligence, make your offer, go do your due diligence.
And then the one thing I always say to everybody, if you look at any property, so if you're a real estate investor and you look at a property, if you would take the property for free, if someone hands you the keys that day, you need to put an offer on that property.
Okay.
No matter what.
Yeah.
All right.
Think about it like that.
Well, and the reason why I used to say, well, you know what, you have to put an offer on every property. Well, you know what, I look at some properties and even if you handed it to me, it's in a war zone. I'd never take that property anyways. I don't care. I'm not putting an offer on it. So that's my way to get rid of that objection. So as if you would take it, if they hand you the keys for free, put an offer on it. So, and what you were talking about on the commercial deals, on the multifamilies and things like that, I don't care whether I put a price in that offends somebody. Actually, I get more worried if I don't offend them because it means I left money on the table. If they're like, oh yeah, let's go ahead and do this. I'm like, oh shit, what don't I know yet? So is what it comes down to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, you want 2.3? I'll give you 2.2. Sure, great. Let's close.
Yeah,
Whoa,
exactly.
what happened there? That's too quick.
Yeah, way too quick. So and realize that too. And it's all about the conversation. And that's, if you can get them to talk to you, even if they're screaming at you, they're talking to you. So
Yeah.
because if they don't care and they're not going to work with you, they won't call you at all. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. At least you're getting something. They're not like you're talking to the wall.
Okay. Most of the, a lot of people don't want to put an offer in on some places because when you do the writing offer, do you put somewhere on there or something that says, I got to back out?
there's always escape clauses. I'm assuming you guys talk escape clauses with them. So whenever you're doing teaching and training or not.
Yeah, I would. I
yeah.
always say there's always 3 ways you want to, when you're doing a thing. I meant
Right.
3 exit strategies to get out of it something.
At least my biggest one is always, it's always subject to partner's approval. So
Yep.
now, unfortunately, my partner died 2 years ago because my partner was my dog. So there's no one to consult now on that part, but they don't know that. So
No.
as far as that part goes,
Yeah.
and that's-
Sometimes you could put your lender's approval.
and you can, so there's no question. I mean, and even on the partner's approval, they had no idea that Jude wasn't an actual person.
Yeah.
So I could
Yep.
still use the same thing. Yeah.
There's multiple ways you could do it.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. And that's having those pieces. So if you're putting those offers in, you want to make sure you've got those escape clauses because you don't want to get caught in something that doesn't work out.
Yeah.
And the other part is the inspection clause that you put in there. So if you end up finding things on inspection. So, and for me being a contractor, I can find enough things on inspection to make anybody go, no, I'm just not going to do that. We'll cancel the contract. So,
I think the only type of property where you have barriers about doing things like that would be dealing with like an REO property. There's no negotiation.
Exactly. It's going to be
there's
as
no
is,
back
how
out.
is, where is. So yeah.
You have to have a really good escape clause because a general escape clause, they either won't sign it
Yeah.
or
They'll kick it back, make you sign their contract, and they won't have any of that stuff in there.
Yep.
Right.
So
Eric just got a deed for $1, but now he has to clean up the liens on the property.
Yeah, that's
Cool.
a great thing,
Wow.
though. Depending on what the liens look like compared to what you have to do to the property to get it out there. But hey, that's awesome to get a deed for $1. That's perfect.
Yeah.
it's a
They
quick,
almost got it handed to him. They almost handed him the keys.
yeah, almost.
But, yeah.
Almost. You got to pay tax somehow.
Yeah, but how much are those liens, to get
It's always the question. It's
Yep.
it's still great though. I love to hear those stories. So I've never done this myself, but I've got friends that have actually gotten keys handed to them. So without any money. So which technically isn't a legal contract because you have to exchange something.
Right.
So as far as that part goes, but
They exchange keys.
I guess that was what it was, a keys, and then they gave a kiss back to him. So everybody
There you
got
go.
something in kind. So everybody's happy.
So
You got anything
I
else?
think that's it. Yeah, for both of them.
Yeah, we could go on for hours, but
Yeah.
Are you guys okay with me giving them, this is actually a gift that they'll be able to use? You all right with that?
sure.
Always.
All right. So if you
want,
guys
could-
go to, this is a great way and questions to be able to ask when you're looking for contractors. So is what it is. So if you go to contractorhiringsecret.com, so there's literally on there, it's your average lead magnet piece is what we call them. So in the industry, but what it is, it's a free report. So it gives you the questions to ask your contractors whenever you're screening contractors. So the things that you want to make sure they have, the processes that they should have in place. So these are some of the really good things to be talking about to them.
Contractorhiring.com.
Contractor hiring secret.
Secrets.
Oh.
That's what I thought.
No, secret. No S on it.
Secret. Singular.
Singular. There's actually 10 points in there. Actually 11. There's a bonus one.
Contracting.
Contract. Here, hold on.
Contractor.
Why don't I
Contractor
just type it
hiring
in the
secret
chat for you? Oh, there. Is that it?
I think I put
Yep,
it
there
in
you
the
go.
chat. That's it in the chat, right? That worked?
Yep, that's it.
So it's contracting, hiring, secret.com.
No, hold on. You did misspell it.
I did
I'll
misspell it?
type it in.
Okay. I should have put my glasses on.
Yes.
There you go.
See that? Look.
Contracting, hiring, secrets.com. I'll see what he puts up there. Oh, contractor.
Contractor.
Okay.
See, I had it right,
Mhm.
but I forgot the secret.
It's not always easy giving free stuff away, you know?
That's why you're supposed to pay for this stuff, because then you get it right the first time.
There you go. And that is, for any of you that do that, it's a great resource to have. So,
That's cool.
Go ahead and look into that. Tons of great pieces in there. It's one of the things that's for me, for my business, that's the way a lot of my customers come into me, is they come in through that because they don't know what they don't know about the hiring process. And they do the biggest challenges. They'll go ahead and bring 3 of us in, have 3 different conversations. If you're doing this is why I say get organized ahead of time. Use your mind map, map out everything you want to do in the project. Because then whenever you're bringing everybody in, everybody's looking at the same thing. You get an apples to apples comparison on your pricing and on what they're going to provide. So, and that's the biggest challenge that we see is so often. So whoever it is, whether it's the average person doing a remodel, whether it's an investor that wants things done, you have 3 different conversations, you get 3 different prices, but none of them actually compare against each other because everybody's got different ideas on how it's going to be done or what's going to be done with it.
Right. Yeah, the mind mapping is great because I was doing that for our business models. Go into the business, this is what I want to do, and then break down each component and then break down those subcomponents and
Exactly.
really digging deep. In this way, you're focused and you know exactly, and you pinpoint everything, and then you have it.
Yeah, and for me, it makes very easy scopes of work for the people doing the jobs. So for the electrician, the plumber, so the HVAC guy, so the framer, so it's real easy.
Who orders materials? You or the customer?
Whenever there's actually, because of the fact of what I do on remodels, it's one of the things that I'll go ahead and give them certain options. Appliances, I typically have them order because they can save money. They can go ahead and pay me for the percentage on the appliance, but if something happens to the appliance, I'm making the same phone call they are. 1-800-GE cares. Hey, you guys need to stop out of this house. I don't need to make money on that. So is what it comes down to on my side. Typically, though, I like to order most of my things. If you do not buy whatever the supplies are through me, so then I don't warranty whatever that material is. And if it's short, or there's a challenge or it comes in broken, so it's on my homeowners to go ahead and get taken care of. So they've got to be the one to run. So if you've got a full-time job, I don't care. So there's one or two things going to happen. Either you're going to leave your full-time job that day and go get what I need to get, or you're going to pay my guys to come back for a second trip charge. I'm very open. Everything I do, I'm very open and upfront about. So it's your choice. So that's what it comes down to.
So
I'm also very good at painting the picture and guiding you where I want you to go.
I got a question on that second part of this is, have you ever had, like, there's a guru out there that says this. Have you ever let the homeowner order some materials and somebody in a job got hurt? Did you ever, or did the subcontractor ever try to sue the homeowner because they supplied the materials?
I have never had that happen. So, could it be possible? Anything's possible. So that's what it comes down to, but it's like, every once in a while, the biggest challenge that happens, and this is one of the things I'll tell the homeowners, if they're going to order things for the job and we don't see what it is ahead of time and all we see is a spec, when it shows up, it may not be able to perform the way they're expecting it to perform because of the internet's so easy to go ahead and get anything on nowadays. And the product quality varies widely. So, because like if I send them someplace to go ahead, like I use Ferguson a lot for my plumbing and electrical supplies, meaning the finishes. So I'll send them there and I always get phone calls back. Well, it costs more money than if I go to Lowe's or HD and buy this. Well, there's 2 things. So one is if there's a challenge, Ferguson goes ahead and replaces it without an issue. I don't have to fight anything. So that's easy for me on that side of things. And it works for them the same way because I can get you another faucet like this if there's an issue with the faucet. So secondly, the issue is what you like mowing at Lowe's and mowing from Ferguson. So they have the same name on them, but they're not the same fixture. So as far as that goes. So if you hold them in your hands, you will tell markedly what it is. And there's a big quality difference between the 2. So,
yeah. Home Depot's like the leftover.
Well, and a lot of the big companies like Moen or like Sherwin-Williams is in Lowe's now with a paint brand and stuff like that. So if they design something specifically for the big box and for a price point at the big box is what they do.
Yes.
So which means they can't put the same materials in it that they put in the stuff that they sell underneath their name through supply houses. So.
Cool.
Yeah.
Anything else? No. I got one I'm going to throw at you. Just curious. Do you work with any suppliers for discounts for your business? Getting discounts for materials?
Well, for us, it's typically based off of volume. But like my flooring contractor, so it's a supply house, so is what they've got, and it's a warehouse. They've got multiple stores, so I have a discounted pricing. So it's either 35% off, which I can pass on to my customers. So for buying their materials, and I do. So as far as that part goes, and if I did it at the 35%, here's the secrets. So if I do it at the 35%, like there'll be times where I'm not doing a job, but they want my referral. So someone will go, hey, who's your flooring person? I'll say, hey, this is who it is. So, and they go there, they can get my 35% off price and I still make 10%. So as an affiliate on the backside of it. Whereas if I send my customers in to buy it, they get 45% off of whatever the listed retail price is. So is
Great.
what
So
it
you
comes down
you create them as like an affiliate for you. You're an
to.
affiliate.
And
for
that's
your
actually their
supplier.
affiliate program. So yeah, either I can
Yeah.
go ahead and do it and I can just make money off of it if I don't want to, or if it's my customers, I want them going there because I've got the relationship with that supplier, so I get better service from that supplier. If their suppliers screw up, my guy will go ahead and jump on them to get me taken care of. Oh, and that's part of why I would prefer, because there's other guys that will only do that 35%. They won't give up the other 10. They want the other 10 in their pocket. I want them at my supplier because it's just
Right.
easier for me.
Yeah, it's good to flow through you, your supplier through you. You know what the product is. You know where it's coming from. If something goes wrong, you just call them up, say, "Hey, Bob, send me the," you know.
That's exactly. Well, I did that last, because it's been about 2.5 weeks ago now. We were doing a job where we did 2 interior columns on a house that we were putting stone on, and it was supposed to come in as stacked stone. So it's supposed to come in with pre-built corners on it.
Yeah.
And the challenge is the way they used to have them. So you had a 6-inch side and an 18-inch side on each one of the corners. So that was what it was. So I planned the columns that way whenever I built the columns and everything. So I'd be able to go ahead and utilize the material and have very minimal waste on that kind of stuff. Well, the supplier changed the way they made those columns. They made them for those pieces. So,
Yeah.
and they changed them to 2 pieces where you had to put the 2 pieces together. So, which was okay, by the way, but the challenge was they changed them to 4.5 inches by 12 inches.
Yeah, different size now, right?
Yeah. So I called my guy and I'm like, this is what you told me. He's like, yeah, this is the first time we've seen this. They just changed this. I'm like, well, here's the thing. My homeowner is going to pay anything more for the material that I already told him was going to be this price because this is the price you gave me. So he's like, don't worry. He said, I'm going to go ahead and call him. He said, they're going to go ahead and get you free material for whatever you need, or we're going to eat the cost either way. So that's why I go back and deal with my people, is because they'll take care of me when that issue pops up, as opposed to saying, well, all you can do is buy more material. So, which would come out of my pocket
spend
directly.
more money.
Yeah.
You got boxes of stuff. You're like, what am I going to do with it?
Oh yeah. Don't ask Alice about the boxes of stuff in the garage. We have a few things.
Oh, that's funny.
I hope that wasn't Alice that just popped on.
No,
She is on my
she
Facebook
knows what's out there, so she keeps
Yeah.
saying, "Are you
Yeah.
going to get rid of some of this?"
Hey, you know, A&A debris removal is supposed to be working your way down.
Yeah, but
the
it's
road.
good stuff is the challenge. So she's like telling me I need to call Let Go or Mercari or whatever it is. So she's like, just get rid of this stuff.
That's great.
Habitat for Humanity donations. There you go.
Well, in the biggest challenges, well, actually, it would work for something like Habitat because they'll take whatever the amount is. But like for my own projects and stuff like that, it's like I get a box or 2 of tile that's left over on a job that the homeowners don't want. It's like, well, I can't return it to my suppliers because they don't do returns on their stuff. Well, they do, but they take 25% restocking, which means by the time I do that, I'm not making anything anyways.
Yeah.
So I end up with a couple of boxes, so there's nothing I can do with it even at my own house. So she's like, can't we do something with stuff? I'm like, I don't want a mishmash of everything in the house. That's not the look I'm going for. Yeah,
Time to make some tables.
exactly. Yeah, she'd be happy with that actually. So.
Yeah, you crack them up and just put them in the concrete and make a.
Well, you can actually do that for floors too and showers. So if you go ahead and crack up a bunch of tile and you just do a mosaic in there, you just go ahead and set them in the thin set and then grout them in. So it works the same way.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah, since somebody cracked my tiles that I'm going to
One
be
piece.
putting in.
Demo.
I'm doing it for my own back.
Hold on. Is A&A causing damage?
No,
No. Scott! Somebody asked, why do you say don't find a contractor at Home Depot?
And here's one of the biggest challenges, and it's one of the, like, my homeowners will ask me the same thing about hiring someone from there. I literally have GCs that have gone ahead and hired, like they've gone ahead and contracted windows from Home Depot to put in their rental house. And then I get a call later on whenever they can't pass inspection. So because the challenge whenever I say that is a lot of the people who work for HD and Lowe's. So, and this is more a problem with HD and Lowe's a lot of times than it even is with the contractors that work for them. So, but like HD and Lowe's, they've got a certain amount of money that they have in their budget to be able to pay the contractor, which means like the contractors have to be in and out. So if there's any challenges, they don't want to take the time to resolve the challenge because now they're starting to lose money and HD and Lowe's isn't going to pay them anymore because the job is the job at this price. So this is what you agreed to do it. So they're under real pressure. Like a lot of the flooring stuff that they do, they have issues with those because they only have a certain amount to go ahead and do in there. So if there's an issue that pops up, which happens all the time when it comes to flooring, so they don't have the time to address the challenge. So now you're left with the challenge and they just have to go ahead and work with it. That's why I say to go ahead and do that. That's why I say stay away from some of that stuff. Some of the guys that work there can work, but the challenge is some of those guys at the same point, don't care. So they would rather just go ahead and get the quick, easy job and not have to deal with the homeowners and not be the customer service focused person that you're looking for in your projects.
Right.
So, and that's really what I know. That's what I look for my subcontractors. I need them to have a certain level of customer service working in my remodel jobs. So, because they deal with homeowners all the time. So if you're not good dealing with a homeowner, I don't want you in there and you can't tell them, well, it is what it is. I've heard that before. So from my homeowners, they just told me I just had to deal with it the way it was. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen because my piece that I promise, that I guarantee, is that they will be happy with their project, or I will continue doing what I need to do to make them happy with the project. So there's no way I would ever put someone like that in one of my projects. It would cost me money. I'd lose my job, lose my business. So.
All right. He says, he asked, it's not the guys hiring the Home Depot guys, but guys that you would hire that are at Home Depot
Standing out front.
or
Or in the parking
contractors
lot.
that are buying
And those that,
material.
I mean, you could, well, hold on. If the guys are standing out front not doing anything, so
That's your daily.
those are called day laborers.
I
That's what that's
don't know
called.
what he's
No, I'm
looking
talking
for.
about I think
The contractors in the parking
contractors
lot.
that are in the
The
parking lot.
contractors in the parking lot is not as big. You're still going to have to go ahead and find out, and you have to do your research on them. So if you're going to do something like that, no matter who your contractor is, whether it's from there, whether it's from another service, whether it's from referrals, are the best place to get them. So especially if you can see the work that they did ahead of time. So that's the best place. But if you're going to go ahead and get somebody from there, so get the pieces that are on contractor hiring secret. So, because that'll give you the questions to ask and the information they need to provide you and the ability and to know what you need to look for with those guys.
Right. Right.
Well, well, it's 8:45.
Yeah, it's almost 8:45.
Yeah.
We're way over.
Oh, I have no idea how long this is supposed to be. Like I said, I can talk forever. You guys know that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We usually do an hour, but we're
we
like,
can't.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah,
good thing then.
usually it's an hour.
yeah, we usually have an hour. We
But
see
keep
people
getting
still on questions.
on Facebook Live. We got questions that came out of the watch party and then up on here.
Sweet.
Oh, Nancy.
How can she reach Keith? Drive, fly to Orlando.
Go to Orlando. All right.
So that's
wanna-
all what I always say is contact Scott and Tabitha. So
Yeah.
they'll take care of that piece. So is what it comes down to.
How about, are you taking on any new students?
As far as my students go, and it depends on what you're looking for. So is what it would come down to. So because I
Okay,
still coach, that doesn't change. So if they're looking for help on this, like as far as going ahead and getting straight with contractors and getting their job set up and things like that. So if they go through that, and you got to let me know where my line is here. So because I'll step over the line if I get the opportunity.
Hey, go ahead.
All right.
All you.
All right. So if you're giving it, so the best place to go is the contractor hiring secret. After you go ahead and get that, it takes you to another page. So where it explains some of the challenges that you have. And there's an ability to be able to schedule a one-on-one consultation call with me, which is a 25-minute consultation call. So it's supposed to be about projects, but for real estate investors, if you got a project that you want to talk about, we can hop on there and talk about it. So, and go through those pieces. One of the things that it's already working. Sweet.
See?
Nancy's like, he hung up on me.
She said she's a LOL. How do you know I'm not in Orlando already?
You could be.
Well-
Great. If you are, we can come and do whatever project you need done. So I'm good with that.
Yeah. If you're in Orlando, it posted his companies in the meetup.
Well, they're in there, but if you're in Orlando and you call me, that link that I gave you for contractor hiring secret is literally where I send everybody at this point. So because that gives them, there's a reason behind that. A, they get a little more history on me, so in my company, and B, it gets them the chance to set up a time where we can talk about their project. So that's where that second phase piece comes in. So do that. If they want to talk about something else on that call, just let me know that whenever they're scheduling the call, that I have an idea of what we're going to be talking about. But I'm here to help. There's no question about it. So whether it's on the real estate side, I do believe with the real estate investors, the organizational piece and having all of that square for your contractors will make a ton of difference. So you'll have much better response from your contractors. They'll be willing to do more things for you and you'll get better pricing. So there's no question about it. So I'm more than happy to show you how to do that. So that's part of what I do. So after I'll give you the whole piece. After I go ahead and do that one-on-one consultation, So I will literally create a proposal for you on your project, or we can do a general template that I can go ahead and send you that you're able to go ahead and utilize. There is an investment in that. That's not a free piece. So just for anybody.
From my experience, anything that you do with Keith is a benefit, and it's going to basically
You
explode
will get
your
what you,
business.
you,
Yeah.
you get what you pay for. You get a lot.
Thank you.
get
I appreciate
extra.
that for both of you.
You really do.
If you didn't see
get
that tonight,
a good, I'm just talking with you, and I'm already like, I'm sitting here going,
yeah, she's nudging me.
we got to go get more organized. I feel like he can see my office. He's not even up there.
Well, and here's the funny thing. You two are saying that right now. So no matter who the business is, there's always steps to take. And it's like, even for us this year in our growth, because of how much we grew. So there's spots that we're finding that there's still areas for growth. And it's one, like, my daughter is now working for me in the business because she graduated this year from high school. So, and she doesn't want to go to college right now. So and that's one of the pieces if you don't want to go to college, don't go to college. So, because if you're not going to get anything out of it, that's an awful lot of money to come out of there with debt on. And she's used to seeing an entrepreneurial lifestyle. So to her, she likes that. Now, the part she's got to take care of is the fact there's a whole lot of work that goes into the benefits she gets to see. So, and that's the part that she's got to step into. And we've had that conversation. Yet for her, she's coming on to my business, and part of what she's doing for me. So one is she's going ahead and she's meeting my homeowners at my subcontractors, like at my tile supplier, at my cabinet person, so at my countertop person. So she's going there and meeting them there when they're doing their design selections. So that gives me the person to go ahead and be oversight on what's going on and make sure we get all the information we need to be able to deliver appropriately. Now, here's your secret. All right. This is the one thing that you all stayed for tonight. Okay. So one of the biggest things that I can offer for you to do as far as leveraging your time goes, and this is what most of us want to do, especially if you've got a job or you own another business and you're being a real estate investor, so is you do a time study. What that means is literally for 2 full days, you write down everything that you do broken down in 15-minute increments in your day.
Homework.
Homework. So,
Well, it's great homework, really.
And the reason why I say that is because I literally, and you guys know how long I've coached this.
Yep.
So as far as doing this piece, and I was at an event. So, and the person who was teaching at the event that I was attending as an attendee, so had us go ahead and do this. And I had an epiphany while I was there. So because it's like, I thought I needed an assistant was the biggest thing that I needed at that time, because I was going to go ahead and free me up from doing a lot of the things that I didn't really want to do and more the highest and best use of my time. And when we sat there and broke everything out and I actually thought about it, the biggest use of my time is driving between job sites, or at least it was at that point. So what that meant is if I could find someone to drive me between my job sites, I just gained back a whole boatload of time that I could be doing things with.
Mm-hmm.
And by going ahead and if I hadn't broken that down, and that's literally when I broke it down on there, because I was all clear. I was already hiring an assistant. So this is what I was going to have him do. So I went ahead and broke that down. I'm like, I don't need an assistant. I need a driver.
That's it.
And it is, because now she does that for me too whenever she's not going out and meeting clients on sites. But she does that for me too. And it is I get so much done on those days. So driving around, and it's that's why I say track your time like that, because there's so many things that will show up that you may not be aware of.
Yeah, I did that for, I forget how many days. I still have the notebook, and I did it. I wrote it every 15 minutes what I did. And Anthony read it, and he was like, damn, I need to go take a nap. I was like, I couldn't believe how much, like, I wrote down every 15 minutes. I accomplished something. I was like, I couldn't believe how much stuff I was able to get done, and what I was like tracking it all.
Right.
I did that for, I think it was 4 days, 4 or 5 days straight.
And there's more steps that go into that piece to make that piece effective, but that's one of the biggest things that I took out of doing that myself. So tracking your time and knowing how you utilize your time, especially whenever you're doing, like I said, if you've got a job or you've got another business, and this is a second business that you're putting into that. So those are one way to go ahead and figure that piece out, so that you can figure out the biggest thing you can change in your life to make the biggest difference for your business.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Now I do them by the hour.
And the other thing that goes with that is you've got to do, when you're doing those time studies, you have to do it like you would normally do it, because it's like, if you know that you don't want to be spending so much time, and the thing that we joke about on the coaching side is get sucked into a Law and Order binge-a-thon. So where, you know, the one show ends and the next one starts like that, you don't even have time to get off of the couch. So before the next Law and Order starts. And if that's how you live your life, well, guess what? You need to be recording that's what you were doing those days instead of making a conscious effort to be, I need to be productive during this time so it looks really good on the time study. You've got to do what you always do to be able to track where the challenges are, to be able to make corrections in what you want to do.
Yeah.
It's the one thing.
It's okay to do a binge here, you know, here and there. But you gotta binge and like,
Something.
disconnect.
And choose that. And that's really the biggest. I'm not, you don't want to be on all the time. So although I say that, and it's like people like, are you ever off? And I'm like, every once in a while. Whatever, but that is the thing. Make it a conscious choice. So as opposed to a brain dead option. I mean, some days you just want to be brain dead, and that's fine. But make it a conscious choice that today I'm going to be brain dead for 4 hours watching Law and Order today. So that's fine.
Yeah. I like my binge-a-thon. I want to go sit out and do the fire. And he's like, I'm not having a fire every night.
Sit out there and have fire. Taking up my time.
Scott's like, it's 85 degrees out in Jersey. I'm not making a fire tonight. So you're kidding.
Well, I got things to do, so I can't be out there every night.
But we
There's
have
always
the
work.
greatest conversations, turning the TV off and being outside.
You definitely have good conversations by having the TV off. Of course, there's no question about it. So do that as much as possible and read if you're not reading. So that's one of those pieces, 2 things that I'm reading right now, just in case anybody wants to know. So
Oh yeah.
What do you got?
is the No BS Marketing to the Affluent.
I like that. No BS.
That's by Dan Kennedy.
Dan
Okay.
Kennedy?
Dan Kennedy, yeah.
Okay.
So, and then this one, Play Bigger.
Hmm.
All right, and I'm horrible on authors, so I got to look. Oh, there's like 4 authors on this thing. So, but if you look this up for Play Bigger, so this is huge for establishing yourself as the category king in your industry or in your category. And your category can be defined as narrowly as you want to. So, but when you're that, and when you think of category kings, you think of things like Apple. So you think of things like Amazon. So those kinds of companies like that, well, they're the category king, A, because they created a process, so in a way to do things, and B, because they said it and they delivered. Okay.
Yeah.
And they created the culture and the belief that goes behind it. They become the category king because it's just about impossible. Like if you look in computers with Apple, there's a whole bunch of other computer companies that are out there that didn't make a computer almost as good. I say almost because I'm on a MacBook right now, but almost as good as what Apple does. So the thing is, though, Apple is the recognized leader, unless you're in the tech industry like Scott is, where he may recognize something else as the leader. But,
I'm just not an Apple guy. Actually, not either. We're the opposite. Ashley,
Yeah.
Tab and Anthony are the Apple people. We're like, nope, keep that.
There we go. But with those pieces, that's the thing. So it's hard to go ahead and unseat the category king. So in whatever the industry is, and everybody else then, so they end up getting the majority of the market, even if it's a horrible product. Look at Microsoft and Windows. So there's so many glitches, and no matter how many times they bring out a new Windows version, there's still 1,000 things that are wrong with it. Yet they're one of the market leaders because of the fact that they put it out there and they claim to be the market leader, and they had such a dominant share that it's hard for anybody else to grab onto the operating system space because of that.
Yeah.
And they're all fighting for scraps.
Yeah, you got to read and educate yourself, and then you got to apply what you read and educate yourself with.
That part is the bigger part, Scott. It's great to read it. So if you're not taking steps with it, there's no sense of reading it. So
yeah,
I like some of the books that when you're reading them. Have you ever read a book where it tells you to take this action, and and then a couple lines down, it's like, why are you still here?
Right.
Go.
Exactly. And that's because they know there's going to be people that read right past that point looking for the next thing. So
Yeah.
and that's one of the biggest from one of my other mentors. So that I learned is when you get something like that, like they come to they're getting real estate education from the 2 of you, so on investing or something like that, and they're doing that, and they've got steps that they're supposed to follow. Well, if step 1 says get a list, all right, stop everything else that you're doing and go get the damn list.
Yep.
Come back. So, and then look for step 2 and then do whatever step 2 says, as opposed to reading the whole process. Because the challenge when people read the whole process, they read it all, and then they never get back to starting what step 1 was.
No, because they're trying to do the last step.
Right. And that's exactly, I want to jump ahead.
Yeah.
Do the step. So stop, do the step, then do the next step. So it's that simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were put in place by somebody else who went through the process and struggled. So
Mhm.
don't reinvent the wheel. Follow it. You can manipulate and adjust it, but if you just follow the wheel, it makes it easier.
And I will always say never ever manipulate or adjust it until you've done it the way they told you to do it.
Oh yeah,
Then you've got a control on what it's going to look like. And then you know whenever you're going ahead and making changes, whether those changes actually have a positive effect or whether it actually hurts what you were doing before.
yeah. You have to track it.
Hmm.
You have to track it.
Always.
Okay, I think I got all my questions are done over here.
Everybody's done
Questions are
here.
all done on this one. Like questions here's questions there. So
I can go on all night talking.
I know, yeah. But now we're approaching 9.
Yeah,
So
2 hours.
I know other people, maybe they want to, I don't know. Maybe they don't like talking as much as we do.
They have other things to do.
We
What
wanna-
else could they want to do outside of talk to us?
They walked away, came back, and said they're still on talking.
All right. How about some final thoughts? Any
Yeah. Any last words of wisdom?
yeah,
Wrap up
that's the word I
pointers?
was looking for.
And I would say definitely when it comes to the project management side, so it literally is getting the plan created ahead of time. The more specific you are with that plan, like for us on my side, so when you go ahead and like my electrician knows that I go ahead and put Leviton switches in the house. So we've got a certain brand of recessed can that we put in the house. I mean, I'm that granular, and I think Nancy was asking that, like what you put on the Google Doc
Yes,
before and
SKU
things like that.
numbers too. Do you put them down?
What's that?
The SKU numbers, do you put those on
If
there?
you're getting it from there, but my guys don't typically buy from HD or
Depot,
Lowe's, so they're
Okay.
going ahead and getting it from their supply house, but they know what the model is, and I don't care where they get it as long as that's the model that's coming out, because they may get a better price from their supply house than they could get from HD or Lowe's. So that's why I don't give them a SKU. So on that kind of stuff. So, but if you're getting things like finishes, like lights and stuff like that, so or plumbing fixtures or whatever, anything like that, you can definitely have a SKU for sure, because it makes it more brain dead, so that you're going to get the right thing. But being organized like that to get your best prices, to be able to get your best service from your contractors, so get the best result for your project. So all comes from being organized on the front end and being as detailed as you possibly can. So, and when you do that, you will get exactly what you're looking for. You'll get contractors who are responsive. You'll get contractors who like coming to your jobs. So you'll end up finding people that want to do more work with you. So all of those key pieces. So start from the organization and planning in the beginning. If you've ever watched, I'm going to bring this up, but I know that if I remember right, so Tab's actually been a part of it, if not this show, one of these types of shows before. But like the Ty Pennington Extreme Home Makeover type of shows. So
DIY Network.
Yeah. But the reason that they're able to go ahead and outside of TV magic, so make it look like it's done in a week. So they can literally do those houses in a week. It's 3 months of planning
Mhm.
to be able to do that. And then they actually slot out every one of those contractors in 20-minute time increments of when they've got to be there with their entire crew to be able to slam out what they're supposed to slam out and then get back out the door. So,
We didn't have that.
No,
Yeah.
we had to slam it out ourselves.
yeah. So, and that's but do you know what that comes down to?
Yes.
So that's the key. It's you can do just about anything if you go ahead and put the proper amount of planning in on the front end to make sure everything flows smoothly. So do that. So it'll make your job so much better. So you'll get better results. You'll make more profit. So the guys are going to want to come and do your projects in the future. So it's literally getting all the things that you're asking me about. How do I get this? So it all starts with you making sure that what you've got set up so is on point. So when that's on point, and if you need help with that, that's the piece that definitely go ahead and reach out to Tab and Scott, do it for their projects. So you can reach out to them. You can definitely reach out to me and I can go through those pieces with you and show you exactly what you need to do to make sure your project's successful.
Sounds good. Yeah,
Perfect.
excellent.
I
Awesome.
loved it.
Fantastic. And if you have any questions, just hit Scott and Tabitha. So they'll be happy to forward them to me, I'm sure.
Yep, we're always willing to do that.
Anything to talk with you.
Yeah.
Awesome. So anything else? Are we
I
go?
Oh,
think that's it from our
Anybody
side.
else? Any other questions? Somebody made dinner. What's for dinner?
That was Laura. I know she's
Good.
teasing us because I didn't get my dinner, so thanks, Laura. So I'll be
Yeah,
over
me
Me
soon.
neither. So what'd you make?
So make sure Tamesh has
Food
dessert
good.
for me. So.
Keith, you know I'm an eye. What'd you make?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So when's the party? So let's go.
What time?
Well, and actually, they live in Jersey, so you actually could go visit them.
Oh, where are we going? I'm ready. I have a map. Actually, we have lots of them.
All right. Well, awesome. I enjoyed the
Super.
time. Well, anytime you want to have a conversation, anytime you want me on, feel free to invite me and we'll go ahead and do it whenever you want.
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah,
We
we'll have
appreciate
that,
it. Thank you for
definitely.
coming on. We love you. It's been a while
Thank
since
you.
we've seen you. You know,
Look
and
forward
we're
to seeing you soon and look forward to being able to see all of you soon in person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be a while here in Jersey, that's for sure. So
Yeah, it's good. It's been a while all over the place right now. So,
Yeah,
but-
well, we
take
were
those
on here.
opportunities. So, and then for everybody that's on these for on this meeting tonight, make sure you show up on these things because this is right now. This is the best thing that you can be doing to keep moving your business forward. So stay connected. So be learning. So and be implementing. So is coming from this. So make sure to take advantage of these opportunities that Scott and Tab give you. Whether that's the standard meeting on you said the last Wednesday of the month.
yeah,
Yeah.
last Wednesday of the month is our normal meeting, and we've just been throwing meetings
Yeah,
in.
and then watch for these special meetings that pop up. So it's a great opportunity for you to learn. So I know
Yeah,
we
Scott
have
and Tab when they're bringing people on, they're
Next
bringing
week we
quality
got
people.
B&K Properties coming on.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
So is it
We're
who's
having,
coming? Who's coming
We're
from the
having
team?
Brian,
Brian.
Brian,
Kevin,
Ken, and
Barbara.
if Barbara pops in,
Barbara might pop in. She might not.
There
but-
you go. Awesome. You guys will love that one for sure. There's no question about it. Are you talking RAL with them or just general real estate investing or what are you doing?
We're going to talk about what they're doing in their business, how, because you know the story,
how
but
they
the
went
people
through
don't
these
really know them,
different steps from beginning for doing little flips to now all the way up to assisted
The
living
commercial
to
stuff that they're doing.
yeah, and commercial and you,
some of the complications they're encountering with what's going on right now and how they're handling it. And, because they're in different aspects, they have
Oh, yeah.
different components, and it shows people how you can transition into different aspects of real estate when, hey, it slows down here, you got to adjust. You can't just stay
They're a
focused. You gotta
perfect
be able to
example, no
move.
question.
you
of
got
being
one
able to do that.
architect and one, creative and
Yep.
so the whole so they got lots of info for us. I
Right.
know,
There's no question. Yeah, you got everybody that's on this call. Make sure you're on that call. You're gonna love it. No question about it. B&K, the whole team. So they're all my coaching students too.
Yeah.
So they're fantastic. So
We
they're
learn from the
great
best,
at what they
what we
do. There's
say.
no question about it. So
Yeah.
one thing I will say, mention that you brought up about the changes and things that are going on right now. So this is the one piece of advice that I would put out there to everybody. So stay away from the news.
Yeah.
Stop listening to it. So, and there's a reason why, like I live in Florida. So, and obviously we get hurricanes and stuff like that come through. So we're used to that cycle where there's a whole lot of focus on one thing. And the challenge is whenever there's that focus on it, you get fatigued from seeing the same stories over and over again. And it's all drama and it's all like, oh my God, so the world is ending type of thing. So, and the challenge is you start to believe that no matter how good you are. So if that's what you're listening to over and over again, no matter what you listen to over and over again is what you will start to believe in your life.
Yeah.
So stay away from it. It was one of the things, like whenever this was all going on. So I would come home and I would ask Alice, I'm like, so what's the latest and greatest that's going on in the state of Florida about this today? So, and she would tell me, she's like, do you want to watch the news? I'm like, no, I got everything I needed from you. That's what I'm done. And now that's literally how I approach it. So it's the same thing with the hurricane. Don't get into that because realize whenever you're listening to that, they've got a reason why they're putting it out the way they're putting it out.
They have the Weather Channel.
There you go. Well, unless it's a hurricane, then stay away from the Weather Channel.
Yeah.
I just see, is it going to rain today? So I know what I'm doing outside or inside. By working out or
That's the funny thing down here for us. It's like all the guys go, yeah, let's look at the weather. I'm like, what's it matter? Because whatever they give me the forecast is going to be wrong anyways.
Yes,
It's
pretty
Florida.
much.
It's 90. It's hot. It's going to rain at some time.
3 o'clock, around 3 o'clock, right?
Well,
Yeah.
and sometimes that varies. So you better get out there and hurry up because we might be getting rain at noon today. So let's make it happen.
Exactly. Get to work. All right. Thanks again, Keith. We love you.
Perfect.
We'll talk soon
Talk to you soon.
and have a great evening.
There we go.
And say hi
Hey,
to,
hey. Yeah,
We'll
say
definitely
hi to everybody.
tell
say hi
Allison
to Elsa
Page
Page
hello.
for us.
So,
Stay
will
safe
do.
and healthy.
Thank
too.
you.
Bye-bye.
Good night, everyone. Okay, now how do I end this thing?